Hero of the Otherworldly Castle. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Spring and Summer. In the early summer of the 11th year of the apocalypse, as the weather warmed up, the sea ice near the ice and snow island became thinner and less. Sister, the ice sea period is about to pass, and the remaining food is a bit insufficient. Anna reported the supply situation on the island to Elsa when the two periods intersected. Elsa replied, Anna, send out merchant ships as soon as the ice sea passes. Now we can use the food in the castle for a while. Yes, sister. Anna followed the order. My lord, the soldiers are ready. At the same time, Knight Commander Bernie also reported to Elsa about the army's preparations. Thank you for your hard work, Knight Commander Bernie. With these soldiers, we will definitely be able to protect the ice and snow island. Although Elsa looked confident on the surface, she was not at all relieved in her heart. On the other side, a meeting was also taking place in the castle of a port city on the coast of the North Continent. My lord, we have collected 100 fishing boats that can go out to sea, which can carry 3,000 soldiers at a time. The Knight Commander was reporting to the lord about the recent preparations. How is the warship construction going? Last year, most of the 30 warships owned by the territory were burned by a fire on the ice and snow island, and only a few returned to the territory, which made him very sad. This is also the reason why the Xia Kingdom's warships can run rampant in the Northern Territory, and the reason why the lords can only endure and not say anything. Otherwise, with the few warships of the Xia Kingdom, they would have been directly snatched by the lords, and they would not have to wait until now, and they would have to rely on fishing boats to transport troops. Reply to the lord. 5 new warships have been built, and including the original ones, the territory now has a total of 11 warships. The Knight Commander was still very satisfied with this number, because other territories may have less temporary stock than them. What are those Xia people doing recently? The lord thought of the 5 warships of the Xia Kingdom, and he was very excited, and couldn't help but inquire about the whereabouts of the Xia Kingdom fleet. Since those Xia people announced that they had cleared all the pirates half a month ago, they have been missing. The Knight Commander bowed and said, please forgive me, lord. I don't know where those Xia people are now. Send someone to contact the other lords. The ice sea period has passed. It's time to attack the ice and snow island. The lord waved his hand to show that everything was fine, and continued, don't worry about those Xia people. No matter how powerful those Xia people's warships are, there are only a few of them. This lord will not provoke them. Perhaps in the eyes of these lords, before the arrival of the Xia fleet, the ice and snow island had already entered the ice sea period, and Xia could not have anything to do with the people of the ice and snow island, so their attack would not hinder Xia at all. However, what these lords did not know was that the Xia fleet originally came for the ice and snow island, and they must have intervened at this time. The Xia fleet that these lords were thinking about was already on the way to the ice and snow island. The people of the ice and snow island did not know that they had such a powerful friendly army for no reason. The ice and snow island welcomed the first ray of sunshine this year in a cold sleet. Elsa stood on the observation deck of the road, looking at the golden sunlight projected from the dark clouds in the sky. Although she felt the warmth brought by the sun, her heart became colder and colder. When the dark clouds dispersed and the rain stopped, several masts rose on the calm sea, which made Elsa, who had been watching, even more flustered. Sister, the ice on the sea has all melted. Anna hurriedly ran up to the observation deck and shouted to Elsa. Elsa did not react to Anna's impatience, but just stared at the sea in the distance, motionless. Sister? Anna walked to Elsa, looked at the frightened Elsa with confusion, and then followed Elsa's line of sight to look at the sea in the distance. But seeing 5 warships slowly approaching from the distant sea, Anna was also panicked and said, I didn't expect them to come so quickly. Elsa came back to her senses and immediately ordered Anna, go and inform Knight Commander Bernie that the enemy is coming. Prepare for battle. No need, lord, I have sent people to investigate. Knight Commander Bernie rushed over at this time, walked up to the front and saluted, saying, "Your subordinate greets Lord. In a hurry, I broke in without reporting. I hope Lord will forgive me." Knight Commander Bernie is too polite. Although Elsa frowned at Bernie's unauthorized intrusion, it was a critical moment now, and she couldn't ask about these details. So Elsa hurriedly said, "Knight Commander Bernie, you must inform me if there is anything." Although Elsa was urgent, she had unconsciously brought a bit of dissatisfaction in her words. "Yes, Lord, I will go there right away." Bernie came here to report the overseas situation to the Lord Elsa. When he saw Elsa knew, he left the castle to command the army to prepare for battle. Near the coast of the Ice and Snow Island, when the ship got closer, they found that a large number of ships had gathered outside the harbor. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" A small boat quickly approached the big ship. A soldier on it looked up at the very different ship and shouted loudly in fear. The big ship slowly stopped not far in front of the small boat. A head popped out of the side of the ship and shouted to the soldiers below, "We are the fleet of the Southern Zaya Kingdom. We are here to do business." It turned out that these so-called large sea ships were the Zaya Kingdom's exploration fleet, which arrived at the Ice and Snow Island on the day when the ice sea melted. Knight Commander Bernie reported to Elsa in the castle hall, "My lord, these 5 ships that I have never seen before are coming from the distant southern continent, or from the legendary Zaya Kingdom. Did they say what they are doing on our ice island?" Elsa was relieved to hear that the warships were not coming to attack her. "My lord, they said they are here for business, and brought a message that the 5 lords who attacked the ice island last winter are ready to attack again this year, and the first batch has nearly 20,000 people, twice as many as last year." "What? 20,000 people? They are coming soon." Elsa's nerves, which had just relaxed a little, immediately tensed up, and she was a little panicked. Anna hurried forward to comfort her, saying, "Don't worry, sister. We also have tens of thousands of people on our island. Don't be afraid of them." Aisha shook her head repeatedly in the face of Anna's comfort. "Anna, we have more than 50,000 soldiers on our island, but the enemy has 5 territories. Didn't you hear? The first batch has 20,000 people. If the enemy can gain a foothold on the island, more and more enemies will come to our island. By the way, Lord, the other side said that there is a way to repel these territories that come to attack." Knight Commander Bernie looked at the panicked 2 sisters, thought about it, and told them the news that he thought was ridiculous. When Aisha heard this, it was as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw. She didn't care whether the people of Zaya country really had a way or not, and hurriedly ordered, "Go and invite those Zaya people." Not long after, Chang Sun Sheng and Li Bao entered the ice castle of the Ice and Snow Island. When they saw the 2 sisters Aisha and Anna for the first time, they were immediately shocked. "I didn't expect that there are such beauties among the natives." At this moment, this was the first impression of Chang Sun Sheng and Li Bao when they saw Aisha and Anna for the first time. Chapter 277, Battle in the North. The envoy of Zaya Kingdom, Chang Sun Sheng, pays respect to His Excellency the Marquis. Although Chang Sun Sheng was surprised that there was such a beautiful woman on this remote cold island in the northern region, he did not show it on the surface and bowed calmly. Elsa raised her jade hand lightly and pretended to be majestic and said, "Your Excellency the envoy, there is no need to be polite. I wonder what brings you from the far south to the North Ocean to see me?" "Your Excellency the Marquis, I came from Zaya Kingdom for nothing else but to promote friendship between the 2 countries." Seeing the other party's expression of "Am I so easy to fool?" Chang Sun Sheng smiled and said, "Of course, it is also for business." "Business? I wonder which products of our Ice and Snow Island are favored by Zaya Kingdom?" Elsa asked Chang Sun Sheng very curiously. From the few words she heard, she had a very deep impression of Zaya Kingdom. The first territory to launch a war of annexation, the first power to invent and establish a country, and full of mystery in all aspects. All these things really made Aisha and others wonder why a powerful power like Zaya Kingdom came all the way to the Northern Territory just to do business. "There are many, for example." Chang Sun Sheng smiled mysteriously and said, "For example, as long as the price is right, we can help His Excellency the Marquis to overcome the current difficulties. Are you willing to be mercenaries?" When Aisha heard what Chang Sun Sheng said, she suddenly realized Your Excellency the Marquis is not completely right. Chang Sheng shook his head and said, the fleet I am in is a regular army of my country, which is not comparable to those who sell their lives. Aisha was even more confused, so she asked, what does Your Excellency the envoy mean? Chang Sheng bowed again, stretched out his hand to introduce Li Bao beside him. This is the general of our country's northbound fleet, commanding all the warships on the sea. Because Chang Sheng spoke the native language, he translated it to Li Bao in Chinese when introducing Li Bao. Moreover, when introducing them, Chang Sheng played a little word game, introducing the exploration fleet as the northbound fleet. The difference of these two words can deeply hide the original intention of the Xia Kingdom. After listening to Chang Sheng's translation, Li Bao also clasped his fists and saluted Aisha, but because of the language barrier, he did not say much. I know. Aisha was a little impatient. She had waited for so long, but still did not see what these Xia people could do to help the Ice and Snow Island survive this crisis. She did not believe that the 5 large ships of the Xia Kingdom docked near the coast could help her win this war. So Aisha asked directly, I heard that the envoy has a way to help me win this war. I wonder what it is. Isn't this what I'm saying? Chang Sheng knew that the beautiful lord in front of him was impatient and said directly, I'm saying that relying on the fleet coming from the sea, we can help you win the war. After hearing what Chang Sheng said, Aisha was very surprised. She didn't expect that these Xia people really dared to say that. With just those 5 large sea ships, what can they do? Fighting to death is just pulling a few more ships to the sea. Chang Sheng saw that the other party didn't believe it, and he also knew in his heart that before he had seen the power of the Xia warships, he wouldn't believe it, just based on his red mouth. In this case, I will not say more. Everything will be clear tomorrow. Chang Sheng saw that there was no need to talk anymore, so he bowed and said, I just hope that Your Excellency the Marquis will know the goodwill of our country. I'm leaving. Seeing that the 2 Xia people left in humiliation and anger after she saw through the truth, Elsa was not very happy. She was upset about the crisis on the Ice and Snow Island, so how could she spend more energy on these little things? Anna stood quietly by the side the whole time without saying much. As soon as Chang Sheng and Li Bao left, she immediately spoke up. Sister, everyone says that the Xia people are very powerful, but I didn't expect that they are just boastful people. What the second lady said is right. These Xia people don't have any other skills, except that their ships are a little bigger. Knight Commander Bernie also agreed with Anna's words. Knight Commander Bernie is now feeling a lot of pressure from the crisis. If these people were not under the banner of Xia country, he would not want to deal with them, and even thought of robbing Xia country's warships. If it were not the time to make enemies everywhere, he would have taken action. A few days later, the real enemy appeared outside the Ice and Snow Island. The coalition forces of the 5 territories came to invade again. Looking at the densely packed ships swarming in, Elsa's face suddenly became very ugly, and she fell to the ground in despair, no longer holding any hope for victory. Sister, the Knight Commander has led the army to the sea to fight. Anna helped Elsa up, who was collapsed on the ground. Although she was also desperate, looking at the desperate Elsa, she felt that she should do something. On the other side, the exploration fleet of Xia country was far away in the west, sailing with the coalition forces out of the sight of the Ice and Snow Island. Chang Sheng said to Li Bao beside him, General Li, just follow the plan later. Don't worry, Mr. Changsun, I know the importance of this. Li Bao replied to Chang Sheng and continued to order, follow them. It turned out that after Chang Sheng withdrew from the Ice and Snow Island and completed the collection of necessary intelligence, he discussed with Li Bao and decided to support the ignorant Ice and Snow Island. However, he did not go up to help fight directly, but waited until the Ice and Snow Island was about to give up before intervening. After all, it is better to send charcoal in the snow than to add icing on the cake, and it will also make the people of the Ice and Snow Island remember their kindness and achieve their goals better. As for whether Chang Sheng added some personal grudges to this plan, because the people of the Ice and Snow Island looked down on him, he dared to pat his chest and touch his conscience and say no. One of the self-cultivation of a diplomat, Chang Sheng could not touch his conscience. Of course, if the ice and snow island persisted and even won, then Chang Sun Sheng and Li Bao would not say this. But according to Chang Sun Sheng's estimation, the probability of ice and snow island winning is less than 10%. Look, the war has begun. Li Bao has been holding a monocular telescope to watch the movements of both sides. He watched the ice and snow island and the coalition forces from deploying their troops to fighting bit by bit. Upon hearing this, Chang Sun Sheng immediately raised the monocular telescope and looked at the battlefield. Through the telescope, Chang Sun Sheng watched as more than a dozen small boats on fire rushed out of the ice and snow island side. He said with a look of knowing everything, TSK, they really used fire attack. The disparity between the two armies is too great, and the people of Ice and Snow Island do not have the strong ships and powerful guns of our army, so it is reasonable to use this tactic. Li Bao said this from the perspective of tactical application. Chang Sun Sheng grinned and said, "We will wait and see. It will soon be your turn, General Li." Chapter 278 Fleet joins the battle. The Xia Kingdom's exploration fleet only has 5 ships at most. No matter how strong the combat power is, there is a limit. The 5 territories that attacked the Ice and Snow Island all send no less than 100 large and small sea ships, and the total number of coalition forces was more than 500. Even the exploration fleet did not dare to rush directly at such a large number. Besides, the warships of the Xia Kingdom were not used for close combat. If the exploration fleet really encountered the coalition forces, it would definitely not rush straight up, but would keep a certain distance to carry out artillery fire, commonly known as flying a kite. However, although the number of coalition ships was large, there were not many warships that could fight, not as many as last time. The total number of warships of the coalition forces attacking the Ice and Snow Island last time was about 120, but this time there were only more than 50 and close to 60. With these 50 or 60 warships alone, the exploration fleet was not weak at all. As the saying goes, ants bite elephants to death, and it was those numerous fishing boats that made Li Bao hesitate. While watching the battle, Li Bao casually asked Chang Sun Sheng, "Mr. Chang Sun, in your opinion, how long can Ice and Snow Island hold out this time?" Chang Sun Sheng pondered for a moment and said, "From the intelligence we have obtained, in the naval battle last year, Ice and Snow Island defeated the Five Lords coalition in a way that both sides suffered losses. In this naval battle, the number of Ice and Snow Island in the Five Lords coalition is far different, and the situation is not very good." Chang Sun Sheng did not directly answer how long Ice and Snow Island could hold out, but simply analyzed the strength comparison of the two warring parties from an objective perspective. Li Bao watched through the telescope as the arson ship of Ice and Snow Island was blocked, followed by the long-range attack of the two armies. The fire arrows fired by the bows and arrows set the ships of both sides on fire. However, because of the preparation, there was a certain distance between the ships of the coalition forces, and the burning ships were not allowed to lead to other ships. The coalition forces launched a series of fierce attacks, letting the burning ships fight in the front, acting as the arson ships, to take the lead in attacking the defense line of Ice and Snow Island. The same approach was taken by the Ice and Snow Island side, which also led the burning ships to the periphery to block the coalition's attack. This is a war of attrition. It depends on which side can't hold on first. The result of not holding on is failure. Ice and Snow Island can't hold on. Chang Sun Sheng watched the war of attrition between the two warring parties from the side. In less than an hour, Chang Sun Sheng had come to a conclusion. Li Bao also held a monocular telescope to look at the battlefield. Hearing Chang Sun Sheng's words, he nodded in agreement and said, "Sir, you are right. There are not many ships on Ice and Snow Island." After saying this, Li Bao put down the telescope, turned around and ordered, "The entire fleet is ready for battle. The warships speed up, and the target is the battle area ahead." As Li Bao's order was issued, the exploration fleet, except for the 2 supply ships, the other 3 warships all raised their sails and sailed towards the rear of the 5-leader coalition. Kill you." Christophe took the battle axe from Alf's hand and chopped it hard on the head of the enemy soldier in front. After chopping off the enemy soldier's head, Christophe looked around. Even though he was at the back of the fleet, he didn't have many comrades around him. He was able to hold on until now because of the training he had received over the past few months. But he was about to give up. After killing 4 or 5 enemy soldiers, Christoph's wounds and blood loss caused his physical strength to be rapidly depleted. If it weren't for his good luck, he would have been buried in the sea like his comrades in front. Christoph saw another enemy soldier coming towards him. He cheered up and ended the enemy soldier's life at the cost of a large cut on his arm. He leaned on his battle axe, feeling his physical strength draining away rapidly. His eyes gradually became blurred. Facing death, he did not despair, but said in his heart, "Dad, I'm here to accompany you." While he was unconscious, Christoph seemed to hear a deafening thunder, and then seemed to hear some reinforcement coming, and then he completely lost consciousness. Because Christoph was unconscious, he didn't know how embarrassed the enemy on the opposite side was. "Master Knight, the warships of Xia Kingdom are coming from behind." A soldier reported the situation behind him to one of the knight commanders of the coalition. The knight commander knew without the soldier's report. After all, only the fleet of Xia Kingdom, which roamed the ocean, could make such a loud noise. "Why are you panicking? Didn't you see that there are only 3 warships of Xia Kingdom?" The knight commander reprimanded the soldier and ordered, "Notify the fleets of other territories, and ask them to send 3 warships each to intercept." In the opinion of this knight commander, no matter how powerful the warships of Xia Kingdom were, 15 warships, 5 times the number, would be more than enough to deal with them. But not long after, the soldier reported again in horror, "Your Excellency the Knight, 15 warships have been destroyed." "What? So fast?" The knight commander was shocked and said in disbelief, "It's been so short, and 15 warships are gone. Destroyed by just 3 warships of the Xia Kingdom?" "Yes, Knight Commander." The soldier's face was full of horror, as if he had seen something incredible, and said fearfully, "The Xia Kingdom's warships have a kind of weapon that can emit thunder and fire. The warships that are attacked will explode and cannot be stopped. I've heard that the Xia Kingdom's warships have powerful weapons, but I didn't expect them to be so powerful." The knight commander thought for a while and ordered, "Speed up the attack. The Xia Kingdom is here to help the Ice and Snow Island. As long as the Ice and Snow Island is captured, no matter how powerful the Xia Kingdom's warships are, they will not be able to land." The knight commander's judgment was still correct, but the Xia Kingdom's exploration fleet would not give him this time. "Fire, keep firing, and keep your distance." Li Bao stood at the bow of the destroyer, waving his sword and commanding loudly, "Be careful not to be approached by the enemy's big ships." With a bang, the warship shook. Li Bao steadied himself and looked down at the front of the warship. It turned out that a fishing boat was smashed apart by the destroyer. A group of soldiers were struggling to get out in the sea, trying to get away from the bow. "Ah! Help!" They continued to sail forward towards the warship. A scream came from under the bow, and there was no sound after the warship sailed past. It was unknown how many small boats had been overturned. Anyway, as long as there were small fishing boats, unless there were a lot of them, the destroyer where Li Bao was would just run over them, as if they hadn't seen anything. "Attention, frigates, follow us." The destroyer where Li Bao was the flagship of the exploration fleet. Each side of the warship had 13 guns, more than the 2 frigates combined, and its combat power was very strong, so it also acted as a blade. Boom boom boom. The naval guns continued to attack without interruption. Wherever the 3 warships went, there was a burst of fire, causing heavy losses to the enemy. Crying and screaming in despair, the warship officer reported to Li Bao, "General, the port gun is overheated." Li Bao then ordered, "Change course and switch the guns." Chapter 279, Help in Times of Need. The 3 warships slid across the sea in a graceful curve, aiming the other side of the fleet at the enemy. The soldiers operating the naval guns hurried to the other side and operated the naval guns on the other side. Hurry up, keep up with the ammunition, brothers below, work harder." The officer commanded the sailors who were transporting ammunition and asked the sailors to lift the ammunition from the storage layer to the artillery layer from the shaft. Boom. A cannonball was fired at a fast rushing warship, and in the blink of an eye, a big hole was opened in the opposite hull. Then it shook again, and a lot of flames appeared everywhere on the hull. People with flames ran out of the cabins one by one and jumped into the sea in panic. Although the flames on their bodies were extinguished, few people emerged from the sea. Although the enemy tried hard to launch a charge, they were buried in the sea before the enemy warships approached the fleet, either igniting a fire or falling apart. Not long after, the officer reported to Libeo again that the guns were overheating, and Libeo then issued an order: turn course again and switch the guns. The 3 warships kept circling around the enemy's periphery, continuously attacking with the ship's guns without stopping. Although the Xayah fleet only had 3 warships to participate in the battle, these 3 warships were like a sharp blade, peeling off the enemy's skin layer by layer from the periphery. The continuous attack outside caused the enemy's morale to drop sharply, and chaos followed. The enemy turned around and fled, which made the enemy in chaos, not to mention organizing to continue the attack. If they were not at sea, and could only rely on ships to survive, it is estimated that the enemy would have fled long ago. Sister, Liz, Anna and Elsa, the 2 sisters, stood on the sea viewing platform of the castle, watching the performance of the 3 warships of Xayah. The 2 looked at each other, and saw only shock in each other's eyes. I was really wrong. If I had known that these Xayah people were so powerful, I shouldn't have said those words. Elsa regretted her ignorance. Yes, they are so powerful that it's scary. Anna nodded in agreement. These 3 smaller warships are already so powerful. If the 2 larger ones were also there, how powerful would they be? Anna didn't know that the 2 larger warships of the Xayah exploration fleet were just supply ships. Their firepower was only about the same as that of a frigate, and they were not as flexible as the frigate. Even if they were on the field, they would not be able to play much of a role, and they might even drag down the rest of the warships. Elsa seemed to wake up and asked Anna, what should I do now? These Xayah people will not attack the ice and snow island, right? Probably not. Anna comforted the panicked Elsa. If the Xayah people really blame us, they will not help us to attack the enemy. When Elsa heard this, she felt it made sense, and felt much more relieved. She was really afraid that the Xayah people would attack the ice and snow island. If this was true, she felt numb all over when she thought about the consequences of the ice and snow island cutting off the shipping route. The battle on the sea was gradually coming to an end. Seeing that there was no hope of winning, and that the enemy was being slaughtered without any ability to fight back, they collapsed and fled. Boom. Boom. The last 2 shots were fired and stirred up 2 waves. Libeo ordered in time, stop shooting. Seeing that the enemy had fled far away, Libeo did not order a pursuit. Instead, after meeting up with 2 supply ships, he docked near the ice and snow island, and waited for the people on the other side to come to negotiate. It's not that Libeo didn't want to pursue, but after such a long battle, the soldiers of the warships were tired. They didn't feel it when they were fighting intensely, but when they stopped, many of them sat down next to the hot guns. Not to mention the army of the ice and snow island, it was difficult for them to protect themselves with the remaining 10 or 20 broken boats, let alone to pursue. Soon, Libeo didn't wait long, and a small boat came out in front, approaching cautiously, as if afraid that it would be attacked by the warships of the Xayah kingdom if it rowed too fast. The battle is over. Chang Sun Sheng came out of the command cabin at the stern of the ship, looked at the small boat approaching, and then looked around. Seeing that there was no trace of the enemy, he sighed. Libeo turned his head to look at Chang Sun Sheng and nodded. Yes, it's over. Whenever the fleet was fighting, Chang Sun Sheng would consciously retreat to the cabin and only come out to check the situation after the battle was over. Libeo pointed with his chin in the direction of the boat, then clasped his fists and said, "Please go and negotiate with them, sir." Chang Sun Sheng bowed and replied, "This is what I should do." He stood up and looked in the direction of the ice and snow island and said earnestly, "I just hope they can make a rational choice. Is your excellency the envoy here? I'm the knight commander of the ice and snow island." An old man with a white beard on the boat raised his head and shouted loudly at the warship in front of him, "I'm here." Chang Sun Sheng stretched his head out from the side of the ship and shouted loudly to the bottom. He raised his head and smiled confidently at Chang Sun Sheng, saying, "I will go to meet them again." In the castle hall, Aisha faced Chang Sun Sheng, who was standing in the middle of the living room. She could no longer hold back her expression and immediately ordered the guards, "Quickly move a chair for Your Excellency the envoy." Then she smiled at Chang Sun Sheng in a somewhat flattering way. "Please take a seat, Your Excellency the envoy." Chang Sun Sheng bowed and thanked. "Thank you, Your Excellency the Marquis. Chang Sun Sheng is a person who respects me 1 foot, and I respect him 10 feet. As a diplomatic envoy of Xia, he had to fulfill all the etiquette. I would like to thank you for your help. I'm grateful for your timely help when I was in trouble." Elsa stood up from her silver throne, walked to a distance in front of Chang Sun Sheng, bowed slightly to Chang Sun Sheng. Chang Sun Sheng also stood up, bowed to Elsa again and said, "Your Excellency the Marquis is too polite. I'm just doing what is right." After exchanging a few polite words, Elsa asked, "I have nothing to repay you for your help. As long as you need anything, please feel free to ask, and I will try my best to meet your needs." Elsa was also a little bit careful in this sentence. The word "try my best" can be said to express her thoughts. "You are too polite, Your Excellency the Marquis." Chang Sun Sheng smiled and replied, but the next words froze Elsa's relieved smile on her face. "I have a suggestion, and I hope Your Excellency the Marquis can accept it." Elsa secretly said "I came," restrained her smile, and said solemnly, "Your Excellency the envoy, please feel free to give me any suggestions, and I will do what I can. It's not a difficult thing." Chang Sun Sheng also put away his smile and said in a serious voice, "It's just that our country's warships are far away from our country, and the warships need a place to dock so that the soldiers can rest and replenish some supplies." Chapter 280, Goal Achieved. "I see." Elsa also knew that there is no such thing as a free lunch, nor is there any free help. She thought for a moment and said, "That's no problem. Your country's warships can dock at the port of our island, and all supplies available on our island will be given away for free. Thank you, Your Excellency the Marquis, for your generosity." Chang Sun Sheng bowed his hands to express his gratitude, and then pretended to be serious and said, "Also, I have something to say, but I don't know whether I should say it or not. Your Excellency the envoy, if you have anything to say, please speak directly." Elsa extended her hand, motioning Chang Sun Sheng to continue. Chang Sun Sheng calmed down and asked, "I wonder what plans the Marquis has for the future?" "Future plans?" Elsa repeated the question in confusion. After seeing Chang Sun Sheng nodding confirmation, she lowered her head and pondered for a moment. She was thinking about the reason why Chang Sun Sheng asked this question. Chang Sun Sheng looked at Aisha, who was deep in thought, and did not give her too much time, but continued, "Our fleet will return after replenishment, and then Your Excellency the Marquis will be in danger. You are leaving?" Aisha was shocked when she heard this, and felt rude as soon as she blurted out the words. She smiled apologetically and said, "Sorry, Your Excellency the envoy, why don't you stay with us for a while?" As for danger, Aisha certainly knew that the situation on her ice and snow island was not good. Even if she repelled the enemy now, she could have peace for a while, but it was hard to say in the future. That's why Aisha wanted to retain the Xia Kingdom's exploration fleet for a while, so that she could make more preparations with the reputation of Xia Kingdom. "I would like to thank the Marquis for his kindness." Chang Sun Sheng shook his head firmly and said, "It's just that the fleet has been away for a long time, and it's time to return." Looking at Elsa, who was getting increasingly anxious, Chang Sun Sheng laughed in his heart, but on the surface he said seriously, "I know the difficulties of your territory, so I have a suggestion." "Please tell me what suggestions you have, Your Excellency the envoy." Elsa no longer dared to underestimate Chang Sun Sheng's suggestions. At this time, she had completely let go of herself. Chang Sun Sheng touched his beard and said, "I suggest that your territory establish a country, and call it a monarch, and form an alliance with my country." "What does Your Excellency the envoy mean?" Elsa was confused when she heard this suggestion. She didn't understand what Chang Sun Sheng meant at all, and what the other party's suggestion had to do with the peace of the ice and snow island. Chang Sun Sheng looked at the other's beautiful face with a little dazed doubt, which was quite interesting. He explained, "After your territory is established, and His Excellency the Marquis is called the King, expand its popularity. With His Excellency the Marquis's good name, it will be enough to attract civilians on land to flock to it, so as to improve the overall strength." The purpose of letting Ice and Snow Island establish a country and call it the king is not only what Chang Sun Sheng said, but also to make the lords of many territories on land have other ideas and let them take the initiative to start a war. Second, form an alliance with the country and release the news to the outside world so that many surrounding forces must consider the consequences of offending the country before taking action. In this way, it can keep them peaceful for a period of time. Chang Sun Sheng stopped after saying this, waiting for Aisha to digest it. And Chang Sun Sheng's second point is also not so simple. In addition to the consequence of forming an alliance with Xia country, in addition to using Xia country's reputation to protect Ice and Snow Island, Chang Sun Sheng wants to establish an overseas base in this northern region to ensure that the fleet has a place to maintain after a long voyage. With a base, it is equivalent to Xia country reaching out to the northern region. With enough influence, there is enough voice. This is why Chang Sun Sheng suggested that Li Bao let the fleet sweep the pirates in the northern region and rescue the Ice and Snow Island in time. The purpose is to win enough battles and a big enough reputation in this place far away from the mainland of Xia. It is not just Chang Sun Sheng's idea to let the lords on the northern continent take the initiative to initiate war with the Ice and Snow Island, the first force to claim the throne. He does not believe that these forces on the northern continent do not want to go further and do not want to establish a country and claim the throne. With the example of the southern continent, he only needs to support a force in the north, and it will not take much energy and cost to stir up the water in the northern continent. And this force is the Ice and Snow Island, which is also the God-given opportunity that Chang Sun Sheng said to Li Bao on the warship before. Because the Ice and Snow Island happened to beckon to attack, and the means of attack was actually the naval battle that the exploration fleet was best at. So if he did not take the opportunity to intervene at this time, Chang Sun Sheng would be sorry for the hardships he had gone through to follow the fleet to this northern cold land. I don't know what I need to pay after the alliance. Again, Aisha didn't believe that the other party was so kind and would help her for no reason. When Chang Sun Sheng heard what Aisha said, he knew that the other party didn't object in his heart, or that he had agreed with the first suggestion he made. Your Excellency, the Marquis is really smart. Chang Sun Sheng praised Aisha and smiled slightly. Our country is far away from the Ice and Snow Island, so we need a place to stay, which will facilitate the exchanges between the two countries after the alliance, and also make it easier for our country to provide timely protection to your country. Chang Sun Sheng's words revealed or concealed a lot of information. Exchange between the two places? Yes. But I'm sorry, your ships and navigation technology are not enough, so only Xia country can come to the northern territory. Provide protection? Yes. The premise is that you have to be obedient enough. If you don't obey, it is estimated that Xia country will be the first to deal with Ice and Snow Island. And Xia country can't provide protection to Ice and Snow Island without any expression, right? Free supplies, enough venues, and sufficient labor must be provided by the Ice and Snow Island. As for what is the use of Xiago having influence in the North Territory that it has no control over? What are the benefits? There are too many. The simplest point is that it can obtain various resources at a low price. For example, the excellent raw material for building warships, cold wood, all these things. Chang Sun Sheng has planned everything. He has said everything he can say, and the rest depends on the other party's choice. Sister. While Elsa was still thinking carefully, Anna couldn't help but take a few steps forward, walked to Elsa and whispered, "The envoy's suggestion is very good, and my sister thinks it is acceptable." Anna really didn't want to see Elsa, who couldn't sleep every night. She would rather pay some price to let her sister live a more stable life. When Elsa was talking to Anna, Chang Sun Sheng took 2 steps back tactfully and looked at the layout and decoration of the castle hall. "Okay, sister, you agree, sister, so I agree." Elsa looked at Chang Sun Sheng with a look of "you say yours, I look at mine." I didn't hear it at all, and finally agreed to Chang Sun Sheng's proposal. Since Elsa had made up her mind, she smiled at Chang Sun Sheng and replied in a very relaxed manner, "I agree with the envoy's suggestion. From now on, Ice and Snow Island and Xia Kingdom will be allies." Not only Anna wanted Elsa to live a more relaxed life, but she also wanted Anna to live a happier life. "Good, Your Excellency." The monarch is quick to speak. Chang Sun Sheng laughed twice and asked in a relaxed manner, I wonder what the name of your country is? Seeing that the mission goal was perfectly achieved, Chang Sun Sheng also relaxed, and the name he addressed Elsa changed from Marquis to Monarch. Your Excellency, the name of our country is Arnold. This name is the surname of the two sisters Elsa and Anna, and now it is taken by Elsa as the name of a country. Chapter 281, The Land of Cold Island. On this day, the cold island had a rare good weather. The abundant sunshine filled the crystal clear island. The crystal flashes everywhere made the whole island seem to be covered with a layer of gems. From a distance, it seemed as if there was a gem in the depths of the blue sea, embellishing the ocean's style. Mr. Changsun, it is now May of the 11th year of Cheyenne Key. There is not much time left. Li Bao and Chang Sun Sheng walked on the street of the ice and snow island, looking at the streets on both sides of the street. Chang Sun Sheng laughed and replied, General Li, don't worry, there is still time. I promise that you can spend the spring festival in the country. By the way, General Li. Chang Sun Sheng also looked at the shops and pedestrians on the street, as if he suddenly thought of something, and asked Li Bao, General, what do you think of this cold island? Opinion? Li Bao didn't know why Chang Sun Sheng suddenly asked this, but he still thought about it carefully and said, except that it's a bit cold. Everything else is okay. Chang Sun Sheng asked, compared to other territories? People's livelihood, military affairs, style. General Li can talk about these. Because the two of them were talking in Chinese, they were not afraid of others hearing it, so Chang Sun Sheng let Li Bao speak freely. I'm not as knowledgeable as you, sir, and I've been to many places, but from what I've seen and heard along the way, this ice and snow island is the best territory for ordinary civilians. Military aspect, Li Bao said, thinking of the battle at sea some time ago, and continued to reply, the navy should not have much left. Chang Sun Sheng saw that Li Bao stopped talking after saying these 2 points and knew that Li Bao was only willing to say so much, so he didn't care, but praised, General Li is really a discerning person. Sir, you're too kind, I'm just talking about what I saw. Li Bao didn't care about Chang Sun Sheng's praise. He knew his own weight. He was good at commanding the fleet to fight, but he didn't care about other things. Chang Sun Sheng sighed, General Li is too modest. He didn't wait for Li Bao to reply, and continued, the general should know that Ice and Snow Island is an island, and it relies heavily on the navy. Yes, now that Ice and Snow Island has no navy, the future will be difficult. Li Bao looked at the crowd in front of him, and sighed without knowing what he thought of. That's right. Chang Sun Sheng nodded in agreement and said, today is the founding day of the Ice and Snow Island. I have decided to give a great gift to my country's ally at the upcoming founding ceremony. Great gift? What great gift? I haven't heard you talk about this. Li Bao was very surprised by Chang Sun Sheng's preparations. He didn't expect that the other party could make such a big move under his nose, and he didn't even know about it. He didn't even hear his subordinates report any movement. Chang Sun Sheng waved his hand at Li Bao's surprise to show that it was not a big deal. It's not a substantial gift. There is no need to prepare it. What exactly is the gift? Li Bao was even more curious. Facing Li Bao's curiosity, Chang Sun Sheng just laughed and said, haha, I hope General Li will forgive me for keeping me in suspense. Besides, General Li will know the answer soon. He pointed to the castle gate in front of him. Seeing the castle decorated in costumes and the guards in bright armor, Li Bao knew that now was not the time to continue asking questions, so he immediately shut up and followed Chang Sun Sheng into the castle to attend the founding ceremony of Ice and Snow Island. Chang Sun Sheng, the envoy of Xia State, and Li Bao, the general of the fleet of Xia State, are here. When the two walked into the castle gate, the master of ceremonies shouted loudly at the right time. With the master of ceremonies shouting, all the dignitaries in the castle courtyard turned their eyes to the two of them. Some were surprised, some were astonished, and some were flattering. No matter what kind of look they got, Chang Sun Sheng and Li Bao immediately became the focus of the whole audience. Chang Sun Sheng smiled and nodded to the many dignitaries to show his friendship, while Li Bao pressed the sword on his waist without saying a word, raised his head and chest, and walked straight forward with a dignified face, ignoring the dignitaries in the courtyard. My lords, the leader, the monarch is waiting in the hall. Please come this way. At this time, an old man in neat clothes bowed to the two of them and extended his hand to lead the way. After Chang Sheng and Li Bao walked into the castle hall, the dignitaries in the courtyard immediately started to talk about Chang Sheng and Li Bao who had just entered. These two people are the legendary Southern Xia people. They really look different from us. Yes, this time our ice and snow island was able to win thanks to their help. I heard that the warships of the Xia country can spit fire and can attack the enemy from a long distance, making the enemy's warships burn, and some will even explode. You don't know this, didn't I have a merchant ship that went to the south to do business some time ago? I know what these Xia people's weapons are. What is it? Tell me. This is the urging of others. Ahem. Seeing that everyone's eyes were focused on him, the businessman cleared his throat with satisfaction, raised his head and said, the weapon of the Xia people is said to be a large black tube. After a thunderous sound, a round ball that explodes will be fired. Wherever it falls, it will explode. Wow, so powerful. So that's how it is. Chang Sheng didn't know that, even if the two of them left the sight of the crowd, they would still be the focus of everyone's discussion, so that he could face Asia, the female lord of the ice and snow island at this moment, and the female monarch in the next moment. The two fired each other and greeted each other. Asia stood in the middle of the hall and smiled at Chang Sheng and Li Bao, saying, welcome your excellency the envoy and general to watch the ceremony. Please take a seat. Thank you very much, your excellency. Chang Sheng and Li Bao saluted Asia, sat on the side, and watched the founding ceremony that was about to begin. The ceremony begins. Please invite Asia Arnold to ascend the throne. The MC on the side immediately read out loudly, after receiving Asia's prompt. Following the words of the master of ceremonies, Elsa, dressed in her best clothes and wearing a silver crown, walked slowly to the silver throne above the hall with a serious face. When she reached the familiar throne, Elsa slowed down, turned around, sat down with dignity and solemnity, and said loudly, this monarch established the kingdom of Anna Germany with the ice and snow island. Greetings, your majesty. As soon as Elsa's voice fell, everyone in the hall bowed to Elsa. Even Chang Sheng and Li Bao stood up and bowed to the sky to show respect. Simple ceremony, simple words, but the meaning contained is not simple at all. Chang Sheng looked at the silver throne on the high platform, as if he could see through the throne and see the bloody storm behind the throne. Chapter 282 A Big Gift. The founding ceremony went smoothly. From the information obtained by Chang Sheng, it was known that the ceremony was exactly the same as the Lord's inauguration ceremony many years ago. Originally, after the ceremony, Elsa would parade on the streets with her guards and dignitaries, but at this time, Chang Sheng stepped out of the line and stood in the middle of the hall, bowed to Elsa and congratulated her, saying, Xia Kingdom congratulates the establishment of the Anna German Kingdom, and I congratulate your excellency on becoming the monarch of the Anna German Kingdom. I would like to thank Xia Kingdom for its help, and thank your excellency for your help. Elsa stood up and walked down the throne, came to Chang Sheng, and said loudly to the nobles around her, I will follow my previous promise and form an alliance with Xia Kingdom after the founding of the country. As soon as Elsa finished speaking, except for Anna and Bernie, the rest of the people around her all made a sound of surprise and whispered to the people around them what was going on. Before this, these nobles only knew that their ice and snow island would be like the monarchy on the southern continent and would establish an Anna German kingdom, but no one told them that they would also form an alliance with Xia Kingdom. In fact, only Anna and Knight Commander Bernie knew about the alliance with Xia country because Elsa thought it was unnecessary. After all, she had already made the decision and there was no need to tell her subordinates everything. Ignoring the discussions of the dignitaries on both sides of the hall, Chang Sheng smiled and nodded at Elsa, saying with satisfaction, Your Excellency has kept your promise, which makes me admire you. Your Excellency, I'm a man of my word. I will also fulfill my promise to give Xia country a seaport on the ice and snow island. Elsa looked at Chang Sheng with sincerity. She couldn't be insincere because she still had to rely on Xia country to exchange for the piece of ice and snow island. Since that's the case, I will give you a great gift at this moment. Chang Sheng followed the local customs and called Elsa Your Excellency the Monarch, an inappropriate title. Elsa didn't care about Chang Sheng's address, but she was very interested in the great gift that Chang Sheng mentioned. She asked curiously and expectantly, "Your Excellency the envoy, what exactly is a great gift?" "This great gift is nothing but a promise," Chang Sheng said seriously. "Anal Germany has formed an alliance with Xia Kingdom, and our country is willing to protect the ice and snow island from being invaded for 10 years. What? As Chang Sheng's voice fell, the hall was suddenly in a state of shock and turmoil. Even Elsa lost her previous calmness, and her face was full of surprise and a hint of surprise. "Is this true?" Elsa asked hurriedly. If someone else told her that they would protect the ice and snow island from being invaded for 10 years, she would only think that person was a psychopath. But it was completely different when it was said by the envoy of Xia Kingdom, Chang Sheng. If Chang Sheng said this before the naval battle, Elsa would not believe it, but since she saw with her own eyes that the fleet of Xia Kingdom defeated the coalition forces of 5 territories with only 3 warships, this made Elsa realize that the strength of Xia country was far more than just the legend. Compared to the little bit that was shown, she believed that Xia country still had hidden strengths that were unknown to the outside world. Facing Elsa's question, Chang Sheng smiled confidently and said, "This envoy represents the entire Xia country. When has your excellency ever seen or heard that Xia country has ever broken its promise?" "Then I'm relieved." Hearing Chang Sheng's somewhat arrogant question, Elsa was not angry, but patted her chest with a little relief, and even the address was inadvertently changed from this monarch to I. Elsa's attitude towards Chang Sheng was not low. There was no way. Now everything on the ice and snow island depended on the other party. Even if she wanted to be tough, she couldn't be tough. "This envoy has finished speaking. Your Excellency, please do as you please." After saying this, Chang Sheng stepped aside and extended his hand to signal for him to continue. Elsa was relieved, nodded apologetically to Chang Sheng, and walked out of the hall with a relaxed face to accept the congratulations of various dignitaries. Chang Sheng watched Aisha leave and explained what had just happened to Li Bao, who had a determined face. When Li Bao heard that Chang Sheng's promise was the gift, he didn't say much. Anyway, he was just the commander of an army, and he couldn't say much about these state affairs. He just kept it in mind, and would definitely report to Yang Song when he returned. In this way, Ice and Snow Island will have a period of stable development. With the establishment of the anal German country, after these news are spread, there will be many more civilians living on Ice and Snow Island. Although Li Bao didn't ask much, Chang Sheng still explained it briefly. Some things are not a matter of whether to say or not, but a matter of attitude. Chang Sheng didn't want to be suspected by the monarch when he returned. When Aisha, the new monarch, returned from the parade in the city, the first sentence she said to Chang Sheng was, "Thank you for the help of Xia Kingdom. This monarch will remember this favor in my heart." That night, the routine banquet was indispensable. At the banquet, after dealing with the nobles who came to curry favor with him, Chang Sheng walked to the stage, holding up a silver wine glass, and said loudly, "I'm honored to meet you again tonight." Everyone in the hall looked at Chang Sheng on the stage, and they all became quiet, either actively or passively. Elsa also walked out of the crowd, stood aside on the stage, and gave the middle position to Chang Sheng. Chang Sheng nodded to Elsa on the side, and continued to say loudly, "This envoy received a warm hospitality in your country, and saw a unique scenery." When Elsa heard these words from Chang Sheng, she didn't know what she thought of. Her cheeks couldn't help but blush slightly, and her eyes looking at Chang Sheng also carried a trace of guilt. But there is no banquet that will never end, and it's time for this envoy to say goodbye. After Chang Sheng said this, he raised his wine glass to Elsa on the stage and the people below the stage, and then drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. At this time, Aisha didn't care about her embarrassment. She walked quickly to Chang Sheng's side and asked in surprise, "Is your excellency the envoy leaving?" "Yes, this envoy and the fleet have been delayed in the Northern Territory for a long time, and it's time to return." Chang Sheng nodded and said, "Although this envoy has seen a lot in the Northern Territory, it's not like we won't see each other again in the future. Aren't our two countries allies?" Aisha saw that Chang Sheng's attitude was firm, and she couldn't persuade him. Besides, She had already got what she wanted, so she didn't try to persuade him to stay. Instead, she seemed to have made up her mind and said solemnly, "At this time of parting, then this monarch will give Xia a big gift." Oh. Chang Sun Sheng looked at Aisha in confusion. He didn't expect that Aisha would come up with this trick at this time. She was really smart and learned it right away. "There is a port in my promise to you." Aisha said this, facing the crowd below the stage, and said loudly, "This monarch has decided to give the Hanyu town east of Bingsu City and Hanyu port to Xia." Chapter 283 Farewell Ceremony. Elsa's decision may be very simple. In addition to returning the gift to Xia Guo, it is probably more of a desire to make friends with Xia Guo. But Chang Sun Sheng thought more. The moment he received this gift, Chang Sun Sheng thought a lot. In addition to the other party's gratitude, he also thought of the other party's motivation for making this decision. The motivation is nothing more than the binding of interests. As long as Xia Guo has enough interests in Bingsu Island, Xia Guo should think about the consequences of breaking the contract, even if it wants to break the contract. Elsa gave the Hanyu port and the town to Xia Guo, which gave Xia Guo enough interests in Bingsu Island. Hanyu port is the largest fishing port on Bingsu Island. It is the place where fishermen who catch the unique Hanyu fish in the northern region live, and it brings a lot of benefits to Bingsu Island every year. In order to give this gift, Elsa struggled a lot in her heart. At first, the port she planned to give to Xia Guo as promised was an ordinary small fishing village in the west. But who made Chang Sun Sheng give her such a big gift in public at her enthronement ceremony, which made her feel what it means to be valued for the first time. The gift given by Chang Sun Sheng was not just to protect the ice and snow island from being invaded for 10 years, although this was the core of the gift. On the other hand, it allowed Elsa, the newly appointed monarch, to stabilize the domestic order in an instant. With the protection order from Xia Guo, Elsa had a talisman that shut up all those who were skeptical and let her sit on the throne in an instant, and she would never be shaken from then on. This made Elsa think of returning the favor for the first time, but as the head of a country, she had to think clearly about the pros and cons of the decisions she made, so she took this opportunity to make this decision. After listening to Chang Sun Sheng's parting words at the banquet, what Elsa didn't know was that it was precisely because of her decision that she, Ice and Snow Island, and Anna Germany brought what kind of opportunity. After the banquet, Chang Sun Sheng and Li Bao returned to the harbor inn, and on the way, he told Li Bao what happened at the banquet just now. This female monarch can be said to be an extraordinary woman. After telling the story, Chang Sun Sheng stood at the port, feeling the cold sea breeze, and sighed. As the ruler of a country, not to mention her rare beauty, just this courage is something that many people who claim to be men do not have. It really makes people applaud and praise her. Mr. Chang Sun, does our country really want to protect this island from being invaded for 10 years? After hearing Chang Sun Sheng's sigh, Li Bao still couldn't help but say, "Our country is more than 5,000 kilometers away from here. We can't save it at such a long distance. That's why I said that this female monarch has this courage that ordinary people can't match." Chang Sun Sheng looked at Li Bao, who was puzzled and had to explain, "Our country has that seaport on the Ice and Snow Island, and it has substantial interests. If our country wants to keep this interest, it must protect the Ice and Snow Island from being invaded. Because if someone else becomes the owner of this island, even if they dare not offend our Xia country, they will not be so generous as to give such a large share of benefits to others for nothing. So if we want to get this benefit, we must protect the Ice and Snow Island." "I see." After listening to Chang Sun Sheng's explanation, Li Bao immediately understood the twists and turns in it, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. People who play politics. The next day, Elsa sent someone to deliver a specialty of Ice and Snow Island, the most famous of which are cold fish and cold wood. The former is a rare delicacy, while the latter is a natural shipbuilding material, which is hard and dense enough, and has the properties of anti-corrosion and anti-insect, and even has a certain degree of fire resistance. Before leaving, Chang Sun Sheng and He Gang boarded the commuter boat and bid farewell to the crowd, who came to see him off, which made him sigh, especially since even Elsa, the new monarch, came to see him off. In this northern region, they had experienced hardships, surprises, and fierce battles. They were going to leave the place they had fought for so suddenly, and they still had some nostalgia. Chang Sun Sheng stood behind the warship, watching the ice and snow island gradually moving away, as if it was gradually sinking to the bottom of the sea. He bowed to Li Bao very formally and suggested, "General Li Bao, before leaving, I suggest that we send another gift to the ice and snow island for the benefit of our country." Li Bao clasped his fists to Chang Sun Sheng and said in return, "Please speak frankly, Mr. Chang Sunday." The fleet thought that anal Germany was an ally of our country, so it retaliated against the 5 territories that were previously invaded, especially the seaports of the 5 territories, which should be destroyed with emphasis. Chang Sun Sheng solemnly told Li Bao his suggestion. Li Bao frowned and continued to ask, "General, may I ask what the real reason for this suggestion is?" "General Li, in fact, the ice and snow island has a nominal alliance with our country. According to my estimation, we can ensure peace on the ice and snow island for at least 3 years. Chang Sun Sheng said this, paused at Li Bao's puzzled look, and continued. "But since the ice and snow island has our own interests, it is reasonable for us to follow the covenant and protect our allies. In order to ensure that the ice and snow island can be peaceful for 10 years, a nominal covenant alone is not enough. My suggestion is to tell the people of the Northland that our country's protection of the ice and snow island is not just talk, but should have taken practical actions. Second, it is to let the people of the ice and snow island know that our country is willing to do its best for this benefit, so that they can be completely assured and may gain more benefits. Third, it is to destroy the offensive capabilities of the 5 territories, damage their seaports, and destroy their ships, so that they can only stay on the land before they recover. This will ensure that the ice and snow island will not be invaded for 5 to 7 years. After saying this long string, Chang Sun Sheng took a deep breath of the sea breeze and swallowed his saliva. "I understand. Let's do it according to your advice." After Li Bao knew Chang Sun Sheng's good intentions, he accepted his advice. In fact, there are still some things that Chang Sun Sheng did not tell Li Bao, such as what to do if the ice and snow island becomes powerful and escapes the control of the Xia Kingdom. For example, the Xia Kingdom is so far away from the ice and snow island, and the ice and snow island is really attacked. What if the Xia Kingdom is too late to rescue and is destroyed? Therefore, Chang Sun Sheng's suggestion ultimately has only one purpose: to gain benefits for the Xia Kingdom in the Northern Territory. And the way to gain benefits is to establish the prestige of the Xia Kingdom and gain a certain amount of development time for the allies. After accepting Chang Sun Sheng's suggestion, Li Bao changed the route and visited the ports of the 5 coastal territories from north to south in turn, using the fleet's artillery to tell these people in the north that the land protected by the Xia Kingdom is strictly prohibited from being invaded. After leaving behind a series of gunpowder smoke, Li Bao led the exploration fleet south and embarked on the voyage back to the Xia Kingdom. From the time when the Xia Kingdom intervened in the affairs of the Northern Territory, to the clearing of pirates, to establish the country's prestige, to the battle outside the ice and snow island, while helping the ice and snow island, it also thoroughly established the reputation of the Xia Kingdom fleet. Then Chang Sun Sheng's strategy. On the surface it was an alliance, but in fact it was to take in a vassal state, and finally exchange gifts. When exchanging gifts, although both sides had their own little thoughts, the overall development was towards the two sides moving closer. In other words, the current situation is the result of the efforts of both sides. In the end, we can only say that every sip and every bite must have a predestined and a reason. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Complete Set of Blueprints. When Chang Sun Sheng formed an alliance in the cold island of the Northern Territory, Anna Germany, Yang Song received the long-lost prompt from the system. Ding. Congratulations to the host for establishing an alliance with the North Ocean Ice and Snow Island, Anna Germany. After testing, Anna Germany is actually a vassal state of the Xia Kingdom. Ding detected that Anna Germany is a special island country of the vassal state, and the system reward is being generated. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining a full set of blueprints of the sailing warship. Accompanied by a series of system prompts, Yang Song did not react until the system prompts were completely silent. He opened the system prompt box and looked at this series of prompts, which let Yang Song know that the fleet heading north to explore had given him such a big surprise. And Yang Song looked at the system prompt carefully, and he got a useful piece of information from it. The system can actually generate useful rewards based on the object. This is the first time that he has realized such a humanized feature so intuitively. Although Yang Song had some discoveries and guesses in the past, this is the first time that he has expressed it in such an intuitive way with system prompts. Yang Song read the system prompt thoughtfully and then continued to look at the most important system reward. This time, the system rewards were all blueprints. No need to guess, they must be in the library. Yang Song hurriedly got up and asked Jin Iwei to call Shen Kuo, Li Jing, Liug and others to come to the top floor of the library, the 12th floor. Your Majesty, are there really new blueprints here? Shen Kuo did not disbelieve Yang Song, but he had come to this 12th floor countless times, and he knew every bookshelf and every piece of paper here clearly. Yang Song did not say much, and after saying just follow me, he took the lead in stepping into the 12th floor of the library. As soon as he entered the 12th floor of the library, Shen Kuo exclaimed ha. Looking at the hall with a different layout, Shen Kuo rushed up and checked it one by one. The contents of the first few rows of bookshelves did not change. When Shen Kuo came to the last few rows of bookshelves, he suddenly rushed up excitedly, as if he had discovered a new world. Shen Kuo looked at the labels on the bookshelf, took out the drawings, and flipped through them, and said, this is the design and manufacturing drawings of the frigate. This is for a destroyer, this is for a cruiser, and this is for a battleship. Shen Kuo looked at the labels on the bookshelf one by one, and suddenly exclaimed, huh, fast battleship? Battleship? Super battleship? How come there are so many kinds of battleships? After Shen Kuo finished reading one row, he walked to the row of bookshelves at the back, looked at the labels on them, and said excitedly, fireworks papers are indeed there. Upon hearing this, Yang Song put the sail-fast battleship design drawing in his hand back to its original place and quickly followed. So many of them are all drawings of artillery? Yang Song was a little surprised when he looked at the whole row of firework papers, which were no less than battleship drawings. Looking carefully one by one, it turned out that they were all the design and manufacturing drawings of naval guns, from the 5th and 4th level naval guns that Zhiguo already had, to the design and construction drawings of the 1st to 3rd level naval guns that Zhiguo did not have yet. At this time, Yang Song discovered a piece of information that was not indicated in the system reward. That is, the reward in the system prompt has the words full set of drawings, which means that, as long as there is something on the warship, there are drawings for its design and construction. Such invisible rewards are very rich, such as the glass, extractor, rudder structure, rivets, etc. on the warship, have their design and construction drawings, and even tables, chairs, and benches have them. On the contrary, Yang Song has no big exceptions for the design and construction drawings of artillery. Even the matching ammunition technology only makes him happy, but not much surprise. Because with the existing technology of Zhiguo, it is only a matter of time to have these. With these drawings, Zhiguo has taken fewer detours and saved time. In theory, even these things are good enough, but the various rewards of the system have made Yang Song a little accustomed to it. It's not that he is unhappy, but he has lost the sense of surprise at the beginning. These things are not completely surprising to Yang Song, that is, the manufacturing method of the monocular telescope, which contains a lot of theoretical knowledge in optics. With this knowledge, Zhiguo can develop a complete set of optical instruments on its own, and even a microscope is no longer a dream. The significance of the microscope is extraordinary. With a microscope, mankind has opened the door to the microscopic world, which is of great significance to the development of science and the progress of civilization. Yang Song looked at the 12th floor, that had changed greatly. No wonder he had to make a new layout change. The previous layout was very loose, the distance between the bookshelves was very wide, and they were placed from all angles according to the light. Now, the neatly arranged bookshelves are arranged in order, and the distance between the bookshelves has become much smaller, just enough for 2 people to walk shoulder to shoulder. Yang Song roughly calculated and found that the 12th floor of the library had at least doubled the number of bookshelves, and this time the system reward was these extra bookshelves. It seems that after Chang San Sheng and Li Bao come back, I will ask them carefully. Yang Song looked at the small map and saw a fleet docked outside a harbor in the far north, and it seemed that they were replenishing supplies. Of course, Yang Song and Chang San Sheng and Li Bao will definitely receive a lot of rewards after they come back. With this exploration fleet of only 5 ships, they can collect a vassal state in the distant Biang without rear support. Such an achievement is unparalleled. It would be unreasonable if there is no reward. Your Majesty, there are many useful drawings here. Shen Kuo's voice interrupted Yang Song, who was thinking. Yang Song put down the first-class naval gun casting technology that he had been staring at, but not turning the page, and looked at Shen Kuo, who was excited. Yang Song asked casually, "Did you find anything useful?" "There are many useful ones, not to mention these battleship and artillery drawings. Just these." Shen Kuo first pointed to the 2 rows of bookshelves in front, and then pointed to the bookshelf in the back and said excitedly, "There is rivet bridge building technology here. With this, the factory building can be built bigger." Shen Kuo said, and drew a big circle in front of him with his hand, as if there was really a big factory building. "And this, the design parameters of iron nails. This, the drying and anti-moth of wood. This, the production of waterproof paint. And this, the manufacturing method of flat and curved glass." Shen Kuo pointed to Yang Song according to the logo on the bookshelf. Before he finished speaking, Yang Song interrupted and said, "Very good, Kunzang, wait until you check them all, and make a report for me, marking some special attention." Yang Song didn't understand these. These science and technology still need people who know the business. He only needs to know the pros and cons, and make the final decision. After leaving the library and returning to the monarch's mansion, Yang Song understood a little more. The reason why the system rewards these things is that they are targeting the control of the ocean. In Yang Song's estimation, this is to let him use these technologies to build an invincible army, to control the entire sea area, and prevent the betrayal of the vassal states. When he really builds an invincible fleet of sailing warships according to these drawings, is there any place in the sea of this world that he can't go? Thinking about the bright future, Yang Song's heart felt a little hot, and he had an urge to act impatiently. Chapter 285, Expanding the Fleet. Yang Song sat in the upper seat of the living room of the monarch's mansion, and asked Li Jing, "Pharmacist, tell me, how many warships should Xia Kingdom build?" "Your Majesty, there is no exact measurement for what is appropriate. I can only say the more the better." Li Jing sat to the lower right of Yang Song, clasped his fists to Yang Song, and gave an answer that was not really an answer. Yang Song was helpless about Li Jing's answer. After all, he had always been directly responsible for the military, so he turned to ask Liug, "But when, by the end of this year, how many people will our country have?" "Your Majesty, it is now June 8th, the 11th year of Cheyenne Key. I learned from directors Yu that our country already has a population of 6 million. According to my estimate, by the end of the year, our country's population can reach 7 million. Liug sat to the lower left of Yang Song, clasped his hands to Yang Song, and reported in detail the growth rate of Xia's population. With a population of 7 million, even if the ratio of military to civilian is 1%, it is enough to expand the military strength of Xiago to 70,000. Yang Song thought to himself, with 42,000 soldiers in the army, the navy can have more than 20,000 soldiers. Thinking about the number of troops, he calculated the current number of naval personnel. 3 destroyers, each with 90 crew members, a total of 270. 6 frigates, each with 50 crew members, a total of 300. 3 supply ships, each with 300 crew members, a total of 900. These are all the warships that Xiago's navy has now, with a total of 1,470 soldiers, plus the commanding officers, clerks and other people, a total of no more than 1,500 people, just based on the number of people, the same as a battalion of the army. In other words, There are still 26,500 people left out of the 70,000 quota, and according to the current size of the Navy, more than 17 more can be built. 17, that's 51 destroyers, and 102 frigates. If there is such a huge scale, Yang Song doesn't know how to arrange it. Cunning, how many people are needed for each of the new warships? Yang Song certainly can't build all these small warships now. Shen Kuo just took a general look around the library just now. If he is asked to answer such a detailed question now, he will definitely not be able to answer it. Your Majesty, please forgive me. I don't know. I will go to check it now. He was about to get up and rush to the library. Okay, you go first, and it's best to copy the basic data of these warships as well. Yang Song thought about it and agreed with Shen Kuo's action. Yang Song really wants to know the general situation of these new warships so that he can make a plan for the next action. Yes, Your Majesty. Shen Kuo bowed to Yang Song and hurried out. Yang Song continued to ask, Pharmacist, does the army need to be expanded? Your Majesty, the army has 1 regular brigade, 1 cavalry brigade, 1 city guard brigade, and 1 conscript brigade. Counting the Imperial Guards, the Shenji Battalion, and the Jinaiwei directly under Your Majesty, there are a total of 42,000 people. Li Jing first reported to Yang Song the number of the army that Xia Kingdom currently has. This number has not changed for more than 2 years. There is no war in our country now, and there is no threat outside the pass. There is no need to expand the army for the time being. Li Jing said this, hesitated for a while, and then continued, it's just that the army has not been on the battlefield for many years, and it is still unknown how much combat power it still has. That's a problem. Yang Song heard that the combat effectiveness of the army had not been tested, especially after the expansion, so many new recruits were added. How much combat power it has is still unknown, which made him, and Li Jing, and other senior officials unsure. Yang Song was a little worried and asked Li Jing, Pharmacist, do you have any solution to this problem? Your Majesty, combat effectiveness can be improved through training and exercises, but there is only one way to test combat effectiveness. Li Jing had a serious face, clasped his fists to Yang Song, and said, it can only be tested in actual combat. Actual combat? Yang Song asked doubtfully, you just said that there is no war in our country now. How can we conduct actual combat? Your Majesty, I suggest. When Li Jing stood up and clasped his fists and was about to say something to Yang Song, Shen Kuo ran in. Your Majesty, I'm back. Shen Kuo was panting as soon as he entered the door. Looking at his sweaty face and his breathless appearance, he must have run there and back. In less than half an hour, Shen Kuo actually came and went. Even if the library was next to the monarch's residence, there was no need to work so hard. Yang Song looked at Shen Kuo in astonishment, and even didn't listen to what Li Jing wanted to say. He hurriedly asked Shen Kuo to sit down and said, Cunning, slow down, sit down and rest for a while before talking. Thank you, my lord, I have rested. Shen Kuo paused for a while, and recovered his breath. He took out a notebook from his arms, turned a page, bowed to Yang Song, and said, I have copied down the basic data of the warship. Then you can talk. Yang Song saw that Shen Kuo had nothing to do, so he asked him to continue reporting. Yes, Your Majesty. Shen Kuo bowed his hands and said yes, lowered his head, and looked at the book, saying, the frigate requires 50 crew members, with a full load displacement of 260 tons. The destroyer requires 120 crew members, which is somewhat different from the destroyers previously designed and built by our country. In addition to the basically the same external dimensions, the destroyers in these drawings are also the same in the number of naval guns, but the internal design is more reasonable, and there are many things worth learning from. The 3 destroyers previously built were designed and built by Xia Guo itself, and Shen Kuo, as the president of the Academy of Sciences, was also involved. However, what Yang Song did not expect was that the drawings awarded by the system were actually similar to those designed and built by Xia Guo itself, with the same size and the same number of naval guns, but more reasonable in terms of crew members and internal layout. The destroyers built by Xia Guo itself had only 90 crew members. When fighting, They could only operate the naval guns on one side of the warship and could not let the naval guns on both sides fight at the same time. Yang Song remembered that it seemed that the structure of the battleship could not withstand the reaction force of firing from both sides at the same time, and the destroyer produced by the current system had a crew of 120, and it seemed that it could fight at the same time. Cruiser, 180 crew members are required, full load displacement of 1,200 tons. Shen Kuo then reported the basic data of various battleships one by one. Detailed introduction and the work related. More than half an hour later, after listening to Shen Kuo's report, Yang Song's heart was not calm at all, especially when he learned that the largest super battleship had a full load displacement of 5,700 tons and had 110 powerful guns. He wanted to build it immediately to see what kind of battleship it was. But Yang Song was still very calm, knowing that this could not be rushed. Chapter 286 Fleet Plan. Yang Song said to Liug and Li Jing, "You two have heard that I have decided to increase the number of navy to 28,000, so that the country's military strength will reach 70,000. Now the navy has only 1,500 people. What do you think should be used to fill the remaining gap? Which warships should be used?" Although Yang Song also knew that the navy was not determined by the number of people, but by the warships, he still had to consider the number of people. "Your Majesty, I suggest that the navy should also be divided into several separate combat sequences according to the army." Liug first suggested, if the 28,000 man navy is still commanded by one person, it may not be appropriate. Well, Bowen is right. Yang Song also knew what Liug was worried about. Now the navy only has a few warships and less than 2,000 people. It is more than enough for Li Bao to command. If the number of navy increases to 20,000 or nearly 30,000, and Li Bao is commanding it alone, it will be very inappropriate. It's not that Li Bao will have any second thoughts, but about the establishment of the system. The navy must also have a rule in this regard, otherwise it will be chaotic and out of order. Then in Bowen's opinion, how should the navy be divided? Yang Song was curious about Liug's special suggestions. Liug replied, "Your Majesty, in fact, I have thought about the navy issue a long time ago. Now that I know there are such excellent warships and your Majesty's plan, I suggest that the navy be divided into fleets." I second it. After hearing Liug's suggestion, Li Jing immediately seconded it and said, "Our country now has 2 military ports, and the military ports can be divided into 2 fleets. Yes, that's okay." Yang Song remembered that the world before divided the fleets according to regions. Although the current Xia kingdom is divided by military ports, the military port of Linhai town is far away in the Linhai basin in the north, so the fleets are actually divided according to regions. After Yang Song agreed to the two's suggestion, he asked, "It is reasonable for each fleet to have 14,000 people, but how should the warship organization of each fleet be determined?" "Your Majesty, as far as I know, the navy is completely different from the army." Liug heard Yang Song's question and explained, "The army can be organized into brigades and battalions, while the navy is organized according to its role. Therefore, I suggest that we should first determine what kind of navy and fleet our country needs, and then discuss a fleet organization." Liug's suggestion can be said to be mature. After listening to it, Yang Song nodded repeatedly and agreed with Liug's suggestion very much. Bowen's suggestion is really to the point. In addition to the indispensable exploration fleet, our country also needs a defensive fleet and an ocean-going fleet for attack. Yang Song praised Liug and then talked about Xia's needs for the navy. Finally, he asked the two, "Does anyone have anything else to add? If so, just say it." "Your Majesty is wise." The two of them bowed in unison, indicating that they had no more to add. "Since there are no additions, let's discuss the composition of various fleets." Yang Song pushed the meeting to the next stage. "Let's first talk about the composition of the reconnaissance fleet, which is currently the most important to our country." "Your Majesty, since it is an exploration fleet, this fleet must stay in the open sea for a long time, focusing on exploration and having a certain level of combat effectiveness to protect itself, and it must also have a certain degree of mobility when it is defeated." This time it was Li Jing who spoke first. Li Jing suggested. Therefore, I suggest that the exploration fleet should prioritize endurance, ocean-going capability, and maneuverability. I second. This time it was Liug's turn to second Li Jing's suggestion. According to what General Li said, first of all, frigates without ocean-going capabilities are ruled out, followed by bulky super battleships, and finally combat-only battleships are ruled out. Yang Song understood what the two said, and finally confirmed. In other words, the exploration fleet will be composed of 3 types of warships: fast battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. There are also supply ships. Supply ships are an important guarantee for the endurance of the exploration fleet. Although their size is bloated, they are still between fast battleships and cruisers, and have sufficient flexibility. Li Jing added. Yang Song hummed, and then asked, now that the type of ship has been determined, what about the specific organization? I suggest that the organization of the exploration fleet should not be too large, nor too small. Liug made a suggestion and explained, too large is meaningless, too small cannot protect itself, it should be moderate. My suggestion is the same. Li Jing suggested, I suggest that the exploration fleet consists of a fast battleship, 2 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and 3 supply ships. The total number of people in the fleet is 1,880. If the 20-man flagship command and staff officer group is included, the total number of people is 1,900. Li Jing knew that Yang Song valued the number of people, so he deliberately pointed out the total number of people in the fleet at the end. Isn't this number a bit too small? After listening to Li Jing's suggestion, Yang Song always felt that this composition looked like a small squadron, which was a bit insufficient. Liug bowed and replied, Your Majesty, this number is already quite a lot. After all, the exploration fleet is only used for exploration, and this strength is enough to protect itself. Just as I said just now, a large exploration fleet is meaningless. Yang Song thought about it carefully, and just as Liug said, the exploration fleet is not used for combat, so there is no need to include so many combat warships. Li Jing's suggestion is to include a fast battleship in it. In Yang Song's estimation, Li Jing made this suggestion because he, as a monarch, attaches great importance to the exploration fleet. Otherwise, even this fast battleship would not be needed. Okay, let's do the organization of the exploration fleet according to your suggestion. After Yang Song figured it out, he agreed with the suggestions of Li Jing and Liug. The next step is the organization of the defense fleet. You guys continue. Yang Song saw that one thing was discussed and immediately moved on to the next one. It seems that Yang Song will not give up until all the fleet organization issues are discussed today. After several people discussed and negotiated, even Shen Kuo participated as a technical consultant. Finally, the organization of the defense fleet and the ocean-going offensive fleet, as well as the issue of their respective garrisons, were decided. The defense fleet has a total of 7,000 people, consisting of a super battleship, 2 battleships, 3 fast battleships, 6 cruisers, 6 destroyers, 12 frigates, and 3 supply ships. Including the flagship's commanding officers and staff, there are a total of 5,500 people. The garrison is in the Navy town. The plan for the ocean-going offensive fleet is to build a 55 fleet. In the plan, the offensive fleet has 5 super battleships, 5 battleships, 5 fast battleships, 5 cruisers, 25 destroyers, and 5 supply ships. A total of 12,000 people. However, the plan for the offensive fleet is indeed too grand. Even Shen Kuo, who has never participated in political affairs, knows that this plan is not realistic with the current national strength of Zaire. So at this stage, it is better to complete the construction plan of the exploration fleet and the defense fleet before talking about other things. After the discussion, Yang Song found that, even if the attacking fleet was included, the number of people was only 1,940, which was still a long way from the 28,000 people Yang Song mentioned. At this time, Yang Song realized that the fleet could not be counted by the number of people alone, but could only be counted and planned by the number of warships. In the end, Yang Song was still a little unwilling and decided to set up a Marine Corps, which would be affiliated with the Navy and organized into a regular brigade. Of course, these plans and decisions are all on paper at this stage, but they are part of the efforts that Xiago will make in the future. Chapter 287 Exploration Fleet. At the end of September in the 11th year of Qianqi, after more than 4 months of sailing, the exploration fleet finally returned to Xia State and arrived at the navy town. 3 days ago, Yang Song received a pigeon letter from Linhei Town, saying that Li Bao's exploration fleet had arrived in Linhei Town and would continue to go south after a little replenishment. 4 months ago, after bombarding the ports of the 5 territories, all the officers and soldiers of the exploration fleet set out on their return journey with the ease of completing the mission and the eagerness of having rich achievements. During these 4 months, the exploration fleet returned from another route. When setting off, the exploration fleet sailed farther away from the coast and went north along the warm current, while when returning, the exploration fleet went south from the cold current near the coastline. The reason for doing this is not only to speed up along the ocean current, but more importantly, it is the essential responsibility of the exploration fleet to explore ocean information. As long as this goes back and forth a few times, the route from Xia State to Ice and Snow Island will basically be determined. With the information on the route, Xia State will have a route from the ocean to the north. With a fixed waterway, it doesn't take long to travel 5,000 kilometers. If we calculate it at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour and sail 26 hours a day without stopping, it only takes about 20 days to travel 5,000 kilometers. Even if we run a round trip, including a delay of 10 days in the middle, it will only take more than 50 days. Compared with the current speed of the exploration fleet, it is unknown how many times faster it is. But it is precisely because of the exploration of the exploration fleet that it will be convenient in the future. Just like the waterway from Linhei Town to Heijin Town, it took 20 days for a one-way trip when it was explored, but now it only takes 2 days. The tenfold time difference is not a shame for the exploration fleet. On the contrary, it is the merit of the exploration fleet. Now, when the exploration fleet arrived at Heijin Town, LIUG came to welcome the triumphant return of the exploration fleet on behalf of Yang Song. General Li Bao, Deputy Director Chang Sunsheng, I have been waiting for you here for a long time. LIUG bowed to Li Bao and Chang Sunsheng, who were walking down the gangway at the dock of the military port, and said, Your Majesty has specifically asked me to treat you too well. I have just returned from my northern expedition. I'm very grateful to you, General Liu, for welcoming me here. Your Majesty, I'm very grateful for your concern. Li Bao and Chang Sunsheng saw LIUG leading officials of all ranks to welcome them at the dock, and they quickly stepped forward to return the greetings. I thank your Majesty for your grace. Haha. After LIUG exchanged greetings with the two, he laughed and said, You two have made great contributions this time. I congratulate you two here. Your Majesty has already known that we have conquered a vassal state in the Northern Territory? Li Bao blurted out in surprise when he heard this, and Chang Sunsheng was about to speak when he heard Li Bao's surprise and had to keep silent. What? You have taken a vassal state? Unexpectedly, LIUG was even more surprised than Li Bao when he heard this. Then LIUG reacted and said excitedly, In this case, I would like to congratulate you two for this feat that will surely be recorded in history. At this time, LIUG also figured out why Yang Song specially sent him to welcome the exploration fleet. It turned out that Yang Song, the monarch, had already known the achievements of the exploration fleet. Otherwise, an exploration operation would not have made Yang Song so concerned. At first, LIUG thought that it was because the exploration fleet had been away for a long time and the exploration distance was far. Unexpectedly, it turned out that the exploration fleet actually conquered a vassal state outside. This is the first vassal state of the Xia Kingdom, but it is worth writing about. It is a symbol of the power of the Xia Kingdom. The exploration fleet has such merits, and even more courtesy is not too much. After LIUG figured it out, in addition to admiring the abilities of Li Bao and Chang Sunsheng, he also sighed at the great magical powers of Yang Song, the monarch. Please come this way, both of you. I have already arranged a banquet in the military camp to welcome you and all the officers and soldiers who are out. LIUG's thoughts did not affect his words and deeds at all. Military advisor, please. After a welcoming banquet and a night of rest, Li Bao and Chang Sun Sheng took a small steamer to Xianqi City early the next morning to meet the monarch and report on their work. Yang Song put down the memorial in his hand and praised Li Bao and Chang Sun Sheng happily. Very good. I have read your reports. You have gained a lot this time. Li Bao clasped his fists and replied, Your Majesty, we have brought back many specialties this time. The most valuable one is the cold wood brought back from the ice and snow island in the Northern Territory. This wood is a very good raw material for shipbuilding, much better than all the wood in our country. There are such excellent materials. Then the value of this ice and snow island is very great. Although Yang Song had read the memorials of the two, it was written in summary, without individual items. Yes, Your Majesty. Chang Sun Sheng bowed and said, Ice and Snow Island not only has cold wood that can be used to build ships, but also delicious cold fish. As Chang Sun Sheng spoke, he seemed to recall the cold fish he had eaten on Ice and Snow Island before, and couldn't help but savor it. Cold fish. Is it really so delicious? Yang Song couldn't understand why Chang Sun Sheng compared a kind of food with a shipbuilding raw material. When Chang Sun Sheng heard Yang Song's question, he immediately replied, Yes, Your Majesty. This time the fleet also froze some cold fish with solid ice and presented it to Your Majesty. Then I'd like to try it. This is also because Yang Song didn't know the attraction of food to humans. Otherwise he wouldn't have this question. After the interlude, the interview continued. Yang Song learned the cause and effect of the matter from the two people. His face straightened, and he said in a serious voice, because Li Bao and Chang Sun Sheng made great contributions in the exploration in the north, I decided to reward Chang Sun Sheng with a special contribution honor, Li Bao with a special military merit, and the exploration fleet with a collective first-class military merit. Thank you, my lord. When the two heard Yang Song's reward, they immediately bowed and saluted to express their gratitude. Special level military merits and honors are not so easy to get. This is the first time since the Xia Kingdom established a military merit and honor system. Above this, there is only one national level 1. Military merits and honors are not as simple as external publicity. There are also supporting material rewards. For example, the collective first-class military merit obtained by the exploration fleet has 100,000 taels of Xia currency in terms of money alone. You should know that the total fiscal revenue of Xianqi in the 10 years was only more than 7 million taels, and a reward of 100,000 was enough. It is conceivable that this is a huge fortune. Yang Song hummed, his face regained its smile, and said, This is what you deserve. There will be rewards for merit. I hope you will make more contributions to the Xia Kingdom in the future. I will do my best to serve the king, the country and the people, and I will not refuse even if I die. Chapter 288 School Plan. Yang Song finally remembered the fleet planning a while ago and told Li Bao about the division of new warships and fleets. Finally, Yang Song asked, Li Bao, you are a general of the navy. Do you have any suggestions on this? Your Majesty, I have no suggestions. Li Bao clasped his fists and saluted Yang Song. How could he raise any objections at this time? Since the fleet expansion plan has been decided, it must be implemented immediately. Yang Song continued, Li Bao, did you see it when you came back? New warships are being built in the dock. According to the plan, the first batch of ships to be built will be warships for the exploration fleet. Li Bao thought to himself, it has already started construction, and you still ask me if I have any suggestions. But he could only complain a little bit like this. In reality, he still answered truthfully, Your Majesty, I saw that the warships in the dock should be destroyers. There are 3 of them, and most of them have been completed. Most of them have been completed. Yang Song thought a little puzzled. At this time, he realized that so much time had passed. A few months had passed. Well, that's good. Yang Song said to Li Bao, the 3 destroyers built before will be converted into training ships, and the 3 new destroyers will be incorporated into the exploration fleet, and you will still be in charge of the command. The 3 destroyers built before were designed and built by Xia Guo itself, which was very different from the destroyers rewarded by the system. So Yang Song decided to relegate these 3 destroyers to the second line and use them as special training ships. Yes, my lord, I obey your order. Li Bao received his order and immediately clasped his fists to accept the order, but he thought of the fact that there were no frigates in the composition of the exploration fleet that Yang Song had just told him, so he immediately asked, my lord, I don't know how to deal with the existing frigates. Frigates? Yang Song was puzzled for a moment, and then suddenly said, all 6 frigates will be incorporated into the offshore defense fleet. Who will be selected? Speaking of the selection, Yang Song didn't know how to continue, because he suddenly found that except for Li Bao, the commander, there was no one in the Ziguo Navy that he could remember. With no other options, Yang Song had to ask, do you have any talent worth recommending as the commander of the offshore defense fleet? I recommend my deputy, Zhao Tao. Li Bao also knew the current situation of the Zhao Kingdom Navy, and without thinking too much, he directly recommended, Zhao Tao has been with me for many years, and is familiar with all aspects of the Navy, and is qualified to take on this important task. Is that so? Yang Song muttered in a low voice, without directly answering, because he suddenly remembered that the current army of Zhao Kingdom, whether it was the army or the navy, except for Zhao Wu and Zhang Wei, who were appointed by him at the beginning, were all talents rewarded by the system. After so many years, he discovered that Zhao Kingdom did not have a complete officer training system. This was a major mistake. Civil servants were easy to say, because Yang Song had always attached great importance to it, and provided a large number of middle and lower level officials for Zhao Kingdom through scientific examinations and schooling. But the situation of the higher level officials was the same as that of the army, with most of them being talents rewarded by the system. Thinking of this, Yang Song started talking, and said to Li Bao seriously, since Zhao Tao has been with you for many years, let him be the commander of the exploration fleet. You have been working for Zhao for many years, so you should train more officers for your country in China. Yang Song decided to open a military academy, and he opened 2 at one time, one for the navy, and one for the army. He did it as soon as he thought of it. Yang Song ignored Li Bao's puzzled look and shouted loudly, come on, go and call Li Jing and Liug. Only a voice of yes came from outside the door. Yang Song then turned to look at Li Bao, and said with a smile, are you a little confused as to why I have to vacate the position of meritorious official? When Li Bao heard what Yang Song said, he hurriedly bowed, and clasped his fists and said, I dare not. Your Majesty must have made arrangements for this. Haha, don't be so reserved. Seeing Li Bao's fearful look, Yang Song couldn't help laughing twice and said, there are definitely arrangements, but I'll talk about it after Li Jing and the others arrive. Taking this opportunity, can you tell me some interesting things about your way north? Yes, I obey your command. Seeing Yang Song's attitude, Li Bao knew that he was overthinking, and couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief. After thinking for a moment, he said, this time I went north. I set off immediately after a little supply in Linhei town. One day I met. What happened on the way north? There is a plan for a sequel, so there is such a thing. I want to go on an adventure with you on the sea. Yang Song listened and sighed. No wonder the sea appeared in many legends in the past. The mysterious ocean, unknown treasures, dangerous journeys, wonderful encounters. All of this made Yang Song want to personally take the helm of a sailboat and bravely move forward towards the unknown with the sound of the sailors' horns. Your Majesty, you can't. Your Majesty, you can't. The light in the study suddenly dimmed, and 2 anxious voices came one after another. Yang Song looked over and found that Li Jing and Liug had arrived. Your Majesty. Li Jing and Liug greeted Yang Song together. Afterwards, Liug said anxiously, Your Majesty, our country needs you to take charge of the overall situation. The country cannot be without a king for a day. Yes, what Liug said is very true. Li Jing then persuaded, Your Majesty, the sea is not as beautiful as imagined. Most of the time, it is tedious and boring, and the sea is very dangerous. Li Bao was shocked when he heard that Yang Song wanted to follow him to explore the sea. Just as he was about to persuade him, he heard the persuasion of Liug and Li Jing, and he stopped talking. You guys, I'm just talking, I'm not really going. I still know what's important. Yang Song heard the persuasion of Li Jing and Liug, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Your Majesty is wise. The three of them were relieved when they heard Yang Song's statement. They were afraid that Yang Song would get bored and tired of staying in Cheyenne City and suddenly run away. Such a thing is very likely to happen. It seems that the interesting things on the sea will only be available later. I will come to listen to you again, Yang Song said to Li Bao with a bit of bad intentions. Li Bao knew it was not good when he heard this, but he could only clasp his fists and accept the order. Sure enough, after he finished his greeting, he saw two unfriendly eyes, and his heart was full of helplessness. Okay, let's talk business. Yang Song tapped the table lightly to let the three people focus their attention, and continued, I plan to establish 2 military academies to train military talents. One is a naval school, to train captains and various officers. One is an army school to train generals, staff officers and officers at all levels. After Yang Song finished talking about his plan, he immediately asked, what do you think? Chapter 289 School Establishment. Your Majesty is wise. Li Jing replied, I asked your majesty a few months ago whether you want to expand the army. At that time, I was thinking that if you expand the army, there will not be enough generals. This is a good thing, your majesty. Liug also agreed with Yang Song's proposal, but he then asked, but your majesty, how should this military academy be established, and where should the teachers be found? Well, I have thought about this. Yang Song heard Liug's pragmatic inquiry and replied, Li Bao will be in charge of the Naval Academy. First, a Naval Command Department will be established. If there are any other needs, we will discuss it later. As for the army, you, Li Jing, will be in charge, except for the Cavalry Command Department and the Infantry Command Department, which must be established. The others will be the same. If there is a need, just ask. Yang Song then told the reason why Li Bao stayed in the country. He wanted Li Bao to train naval talents, which is much more meaningful than letting Li Bao explore a few more new islands. Yes, your majesty, I obey your orders. The three of them obeyed their orders again in unison. After getting up, Li Bao immediately suggested, your majesty, I suggest that in addition to the Naval Command Department, there should also be special professional departments, including the 3 majors of boatswain, gunner, and observation chief. Well, it's approved, but can we find candidates for teachers? Yang Song thought about it and agreed to Li Bao's suggestion, but he didn't know where to find candidates for teachers. Li Bao replied, your majesty, in fact, there are teachers. They are the 5 officers who were stuffed into the navy by your majesty before. After a long time of contact, I know that they are all excellent military teachers. After hearing what Li Bao said, Yang Song remembered that there was such a thing. Among the 5,000 talents rewarded by the system in the past, there were some military talents, but he didn't ask about them one by one. They were all assigned to various armies according to their fields, including 5 naval talents. After Yang Song recalled it, he immediately asked Li Jing, so, the candidates for the teachers of the army have been found? Yes, I came to junction with 10 army teachers and 10 army officers. I will transfer these 10 teachers back immediately after I return. Li Jing's answer confirmed Yang Song's guess. This made him breathe a sigh of relief. Originally, Yang Song planned to establish the command department first, let Li Bao and Li Jing come directly as teachers, and then supplement other departments after having suitable personnel in the future. He didn't expect that so many departments could be established at once, which made him very happy. Finally, Yang Song made a decision and said, in this case, this matter is settled. The location of the academy. Yang Song pondered for a moment and said, the naval school will be established in the naval town, and the army academy will be established in Cheyenne Pass. Let's not talk about the location of the naval school. The army school is established in Cheyenne Pass because Cheyenne Pass has complete military facilities. After Yang Song determined the location, he explained it casually. Yes, I obey your command. Finally, after another round of discussion, the departments of the 2 military academies were determined. The naval school has a total of 6 departments, namely the Naval Command Department, the Sailor Department, the Naval Gunnery Department, the Detection Department, the Political and Cultural Department, and the Supply Department. The principal is Libeo, who also bears the responsibilities of a teacher and concurrently serves as the commander of the offshore defense fleet, although the offshore defense fleet now has only 6 frigates. The Naval Command Department is aimed at captains. With the increase in the number of naval warships, there is an increasing need for captains. This department is very important. The Sailor Department trains various sailor officers, including mid-level chief sailors and low-level special boatswains. The Naval Gunnery Department, as the name suggests, is an officer who commands naval guns. Shooting naval guns is not that simple. The Detection Department, whose full name is the Marine Exploration, Surveying and Mapping Department, includes various professional knowledge such as hydrology, ocean currents, and geography. It is a technical department. The Political Science and Literature Department is a large department that includes various majors including politics, ideology, civilian work, and journalism. It is a department proposed by Yang Song. The Supply Department requires professional talents for maritime supply and transportation, and the importance of logistics in the Army is self-evident. The Army Academy has many departments, with a total of 10 departments, namely the Cavalry Department, Infantry Department, Detection Department, Military Intelligence Department, Political Science and Literature Department, Equipment Department, Rear Security Department, Military Affairs Department, Firearms Department, and Engineering Department. The Dean is Li Jing. Li Jing's responsibilities are very heavy. He is the Deputy Director of the Military Department and the Director of the Command and Staff Bureau. He also serves as the Brigade Commander of the Conscript Brigade. Now Yang Song has handed the Army Academy to him, which can be said to be a high position. The Infantry Department refers to the Infantry Command Department. The talents trained are for high-level rewards. Of course, after graduation, they will definitely not be able to become generals directly, but have to start from the middle and low levels. The Cavalry Department is similar to the Infantry Department. It also trains middle and high-level talents, but the direction of training is cavalry. The Detection Department, like the Detection Department of the Naval School, also trains professional talents, but on land. Talents in scouts, geography, terrain, and other specialties are an indispensable part of the Army. The Military Intelligence Department, full name Military Intelligence Department, is to train professional intelligence talents. No matter how much importance is attached to intelligence, it is not too much, not to mention that there is Yang Song, who comes from the information age, who attaches great importance to information. The Political and Cultural Department, like the Navy, but it is aimed at the Army. The Political and Legal Bureau and the Military Affairs Bureau need talents in this area. The Equipment Department, the Department of Weapons and Equipment, the development of weapons, the research and development of equipment, and even the development of future weapons. This department is directly related to the strength of the Army's combat effectiveness. The Logistics Department, the Logistics Department, the truth that the 3 armies have not moved, the food and grass must be sent first is very simple. This is also the reason why Yang Song specially set up a logistics bureau, to be responsible for the logistics support of the Army. He does not want the logistics to drag down the Army. The Military Staff Department, full name Military Division Staff Department, trains all the wise and strategic talents, and is another very important department. The existence of military advisors and staff can make the Army play 120% of its combat power. The Firearms Department is to train specialized talents for muskets and artillery. The future is the era of hot weapons. The Engineering Department, military engineering involves all aspects, from cutting trees, to building bridges and camps, to building passes. There is no aspect of the Army that cannot be separated from engineering participation. After all kinds of things were gathered together, Yang Song discovered that the military system was so vast, and the military system of Xiago was not perfect, with such a big loophole. When he first came to this world, Yang Song thought about the problem of military academies, but at that time, these explorations were just empty talk. When Xiago had this ability now, he forgot it for various reasons. Until now, because the Navy has a talent demand, he remembered it again. Fortunately, it is not too late now, and Xiago does not have an urgent need for large-scale military expansion, and there is still time to make up for this course. Chapter 290 Iron Resolution. Your Majesty, my colleagues, this year's population increased by 2 million, of which 500,000 were newborns, and the total population of our country has now reached 7 million. At the end of the 11th year of Qianqi, Zunyu reported at the end of year court meeting, there are 3 million people in the 3 counties of the Linhai Basin, and 4 million people south of the Qianqian Mountains. In addition to Linhai County and Siling County, there is a newly established county in the 3 counties of the Linhai Basin, called Zigi County. Zigi County is the county where the super large iron ore was discovered. It has 3 towns, Liangshan Town, Zigi Town, and Ningxian Town. Ningxian Town is a town that mines iron ore. Liangshan Town is located at the westernmost end of the Linhai Basin, in the mountainous area, where 2 mountain ranges meet. A large brigade of city guards is stationed here. The reason why a brigade of 300 city guards is stationed in Liangshan Town is that some natives who came out of the deep mountains have been discovered in recent years. After these natives were discovered, the young and strong were used as labor, and the rest of the old and weak were cleared out. In order to prevent other natives from staying in the deep mountains, 2 or 3 towns also serve as sentinels. Zigi Town is the site of the original Ligang Territory Castle. After the original buildings were cleaned up, Zigi Town was rebuilt on it. It is expected that 3 million more people will be added next year. Zunyu continued to report, the railway between Industrial Town and Qianqi City is running well, with 2 passenger trains and 4 freight trains every day. The trains and railways in trial operation belong to the post office under the administrative office, and have received great attention from Yangsong. After all, the success of the trial operation represents that Xiaguo can expand the railway on a large scale. If the steel production could not keep up, Yangsong really wanted to build railways to every important place in Xiaguo. This year, the country's steel production has reached 110,000 tons, of which 90,000 tons are produced in Industrial Town and 30,000 tons are produced in Ningxian Town. The planned steel production is 300,000 tons in Industrial Town and 700,000 tons in Ningxian Town. The million tons of steel production in the 10-year plan are all based on the principle of proximity. Wherever there is iron ore, there is an iron smelting plant, but the coke's energy needs to be transported. This year, our country has added a subordinate island country in the northern region. This is the most outstanding diplomatic achievement of our country in recent years. Zunyu reported in detail the work done by the Xia State Administrative Office in the 11th year of Qianqi. At the end of the report, Zunyu raised a difficult question. Although our country has added a county, the mining of Ningxian Iron Mine and the newly added iron smelting plant have consumed a large number of manpower. If we want to build a new railway, there will not be enough manpower. Yangsong did not ask Zunyu why he did not recruit the people because of the shortage of people, because he knew that the recruitment of the people was not only a food problem, but also a whole set of system problems. It is impossible to recruit the people and let them sleep on the streets. In the past 2 years, Yangsong has focused on the development of people's livelihood. In order to recruit a large number of people, under the advice of Zunyu, Yangsong ordered that every county, every town, and every village be expanded. The nationwide expansion has made Xia State have a large surplus of residential houses, which is also the reason why the population has increased by 2 million every year in the past 2 years. However, every place has its development limit, and it is impossible to expand infinitely. Therefore, while expanding, new counties and towns are also being built. There is also a new county under construction in the current Linhai Mountains. Well, I know about this problem. I will continue to report next. Yangsong is gathering all the problems together for discussion and solution. This year, the country's fiscal revenue is 9.3 million taels of Xia currency, and the fiscal expenditure is 9.3 million taels. Zhang Jiasheng continued to report. Among the fiscal revenue, the foreign trade of Gihua City is 800,000 taels, the commercial income is 3.3 million taels, the agricultural income is 5 million taels, and the other income is 200,000 taels. Zhang Jiasheng did not explain the details of the fiscal expenditure, because the actual expenditure of Xia State is far more than 9.3 million taels, and has long exceeded 10 million taels. All of these extra taels were paid by Yangsong, so such problems are not easy to explain directly. The army of the country remains unchanged, and the navy has built 3 new destroyers and assigned them to the exploration fleet. As the deputy director of the military department, Li Jing was responsible for reporting on military affairs. The exploration fleet currently has 3 destroyers and 3 supply ships. The defense fleet currently has 6 frigates. The military report was as concise and vague as usual, without more details. In fact, the Navy is also building a fast battleship and 2 cruisers, all of which are built for the exploration fleet. After all the warships of the exploration fleet are built, it will be the turn of the defense fleet. Next, the education, science, and technology, law and other departments all made reports. After they were finished, Yang Song asked the question just now, regarding the manpower needed to build the railway. Do you have any suggestions? Hearing Yang Song's question, the council hall suddenly became quiet, and all the ministers frowned and pondered, thinking about how to solve this problem. Your Majesty, I suggest using indigenous labor to build the railway. After waiting for a while, Lurk took the lead in suggesting, I know that building a railway requires enough labor, and these indigenous people are capable enough. Military advisor Lurk, there are only more than 80,000 indigenous laborers left, and they are no longer usable. If a large number of laborers are drawn out to build the railway, where will the gap come from? This is Zinu's doubt, otherwise he would have transferred these indigenous people to build the railway long ago. Yang Song nodded in agreement with Zinu's question. He also looked at Lurk with a puzzled look, waiting for the other party's explanation. Your Majesty, Director Zun. Lurk bowed to the 2 of them and said, there is not enough labor in the country, but there is abroad. What do you mean? Yang Song's eyes lit up when he heard this, looking at Lurk, waiting for his next words. Your Majesty, Lurk said seriously, I have 2 suggestions for obtaining labor from abroad. Tell me about them. Yang Song waved his hand impatiently, asking Lurk to continue. Yes, Your Majesty. Lurk bowed and said, one is to use money. There are many slave traders abroad. Our country can use money to buy a large number of strong slaves. The disadvantage is that it requires a lot of money. The second way is to rob. When Lurk said this, he saw that many of the ministers in the hall changed their faces. After hesitating for a while, he continued, send troops out of the pass to plunder directly. The disadvantage is that it consumes military strength and materials, and it will make our country's reputation even worse. I second the second suggestion of Lurk. As soon as Lurk finished speaking, Li Jing immediately spoke up to agree with Lurk's suggestion to go out of the pass to plunder. I object. Zinu immediately objected. Your Majesty, our country has not fought with the countries outside the pass for so many years. It is unwise to let our country's reputation be ruined for some labor. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, Decision to Plunder. Director Zun, what you said is wrong. Lurk refuted Zinu's reason. Since our country occupied the Linhai Basin and drove the indigenous residents out of the pass, our country's reputation has been abroad. Now it is just for the benefit of our country. What does it matter if we sacrifice some reputation? Military advisor Lurk, what you said is really wrong. Zinu immediately replied, for many years, our country has established Gihua City, opened up foreign trade, assisted friendly countries, and even conquered a vassal state in the northern region. How can we say that our country's reputation is so bad? Yang Song watched and listened to the dispute between the 2, and even caused the ministers in the hall to split into 2 groups, arguing separately. He suddenly thought of the vassal state. It seemed that the Xia Kingdom was now a country with vassal states, and some things should be decided. Okay. Yang Song looked at the ministers who were arguing. Each of them had their own reasons and opinions. He did not express who was right or wrong, but turned to Li Jing, who had only said one sentence, and asked, Pharmacist, why do you agree with Bo Wen's second suggestion? Your Majesty, I agree with Lurk's suggestion, because I think from the perspective of the army. Li Jing replied without hiding anything. I have reported to your majesty before about the army's combat effectiveness. If the army needs to go out to plunder this time, then this is a good opportunity to test the army's combat effectiveness. Li Jing thought for a while, glanced at Yang Song, and continued, moreover, this is also an opportunity to train the troops and test the army's weapons and equipment. Yang Song understood Li Jing's last sentence. Li Jing meant that this time he could also let his direct army, the Shenji camp, go on the field to test the combat effectiveness of the muskets. After understanding Li Jing's words, Yang Song also made a decision and said, Bo Wen, do you have any suggestions for plundering? When the ministers in the palace heard Yang Song's words, they knew that their monarch had made a decision, so they stopped arguing and all fell silent. Your Majesty, I suggest plundering the forces along the East China Sea. Liu proposed the suggestion of plundering. Of course he had already thought of the target of plunder. Oh, why? Yang Song heard about the forces along the East China Sea and probably guessed Liu's idea, but he still wanted to hear his opinion. Your Majesty, outside Shanhaiguan is a country of few limits supported by our country. Isn't it plunderable? Liu explained in detail. Besides that, our country's only way to the outside world is by sea. And our navy is strong. The ocean is firmly in our hands, and there will be no obstacles on the way back to our country after the plunder. Yang Song nodded slightly to Liu's suggestion to show his affirmation. He knew that Liu had made full use of the advantages of the Xia kingdom without any waste. As far as plundering is concerned, such a long distance along the coast is much more flexible than on land. As Liu said, Xia state has already controlled the sea power and has an absolute advantage at sea. On the other hand, the forces plundering the coastal areas can avoid the vigilance of the nearby forces outside Shanhaiguan. Moreover, for Parker of the Free Might State, the plundering of the coastal forces by the Xia state is helping him to reduce the pressure from the east. He is too happy to be disgusted. Outside Shanhaiguan, on the coastline south of the Barren River, the largest and closest country is the Baxter State. In the past 2 years, the expansion of the Baxter State has turned to the north, and it has become a country with hundreds of thousands of square kilometers of land. In contrast to the Baxter State, the Free Might State, which is close to the Xia State, has not changed much in the past 2 years, and is still trapped between several coalition forces. The stagnation of the Free Might State is actually closely related to the Xia State. When Parker sent people to repay part of the loan of the Xia State, he turned to the Xia State to give him more support, weapons, and equipment, and food. But the Xia State considered various aspects and decided to postpone the support. After all, the reason why Xia supported Parker was to make the Shanhaiguan area chaotic, not to cultivate an opponent for itself. So Xia decided to control the power of Philomet so that it could not continue to grow stronger. That's great. After listening to Liu's speech, Yang Song decided with satisfaction, then let's do it according to this proposal. In addition, Gihua City will also conduct slave trade with the outside world. Your Majesty is wise. Even if many ministers were dissatisfied, Yang Song had made a decision, so they had to obey his orders. Yang Song's decision was to take a two-pronged approach. He would not only use gold to buy, but also send troops to plunder. Moreover, he thought of the situation outside the pass that had gradually become clear in the past 2 years and decided to find another breakthrough point to make it chaotic. And the slave trade was a good breakthrough point. Philomet, the country closest to Xia, would definitely benefit from this trade. Parker would even take the initiative to provide slaves to Xia in order to get the help of Xia. As long as Parker earns enough money from Gihua City, he can directly use the money to buy the goods he wants. Even if Xiago is unwilling to provide, he can also go to other chambers of commerce to buy. The profit of slave trade is very large. As long as there is an armed force, find a place to live, plunder and sell to Xiago, you can get a lot of money. Yang Song believes that these slave traders who only care about interests will definitely not be at odds with money. After the meeting, Yang Song came to the small garden in the backyard and watched the two children laughing and playing around under the care of the maids. He couldn't help but smile knowingly, and even the slight depression of his decision at the court meeting was cleared. Yang Song is not a completely ruthless person. On the contrary, he is a person who values friendship and righteousness. Although Yang Song has some sympathy for the natives of this world in his heart, when making decisions, he thinks completely from the perspective of Xiaguo. As for the natives, who are regarded as stepping stones by Xiaguo, he can only say sorry secretly. For Xiaguo and the people of Xiaguo, he can only and must do this. Father is here. The two little brats saw Yang Song coming around the corner, and they all ran over with their arms open. Well, come, let father hug you. Yang Song squatted down, opened his arms, picked up his son and daughter in one hand, and kissed each of them. Giggle itchy. The two little guys were also restless in Yang Song's arms, moving around. Greetings, your majesty. The maid came over to greet him. Yang Song hummed and asked, how are the two little guys today? Did you cause any trouble? The maid lowered her head and replied, your majesty. The prince and the princess were very well behaved today, and didn't cause any trouble. Father is naughty, but my brother and I were very well behaved today. Yang Yan on the left hand heard what Yang Song said, pouted her little mouth, and looked unhappy. Haha, yes, my Xiaoan is the best. Yang Song saw the cute appearance of his daughter, and a feeling of happiness rose from the bottom of his heart. Yang Song teased the two little guys for a while, then put them on the ground as they soon became impatient, and clamored to go play. He looked at the two lively children, and couldn't help thinking, time flies so fast, 6 years have already passed. You keep an eye on the two little guys. Yang Song stood there for a while, gave an order to the maid, then left the back garden that brought him warmth and healing, and returned to the study, to continue his busy work. Chapter 292, The First Battle of the Divine Machine. In the military port of the Navy town, an army was boarding a ship. Each member of this army was carrying a musket. They were the Shenji Battalion directly under Yang Song. The Shenji Battalion was the first army to go to the battlefield, and their destination was a small coastal town in the country of Baxter. The Shenji Battalion had 1,500 people, just enough for one transportation of 3 supply ships, including 10 days of ammunition. Their mission was to occupy this coastal town and lay a good foundation for the upcoming army. Hurry up and board the ship. This is the first battle of our Shenji Battalion. We must win. We must not lose the face of the troops directly under the monarch. Yan Ren stood by the gangway and loudly encouraged the morale of the soldiers boarding the ship. After more than 2 years of training, although Yan Ren was very confident in the combat effectiveness of the Shenji Battalion, this was the first battle of the Shenji Battalion, and he was also the vanguard of this operation, so this put him under great pressure. Yan Ren asked loudly, tell this commander, soldiers, what is the slogan of our Shenji Battalion? Loyalty to the emperor and the country, where the Shenji is, brave and invincible. Tell this commander, soldiers, victory is ahead. Do you want it? Victory, victory, victory. The soldiers held their chests high, their spirits high, and roared in unison, telling Yan Ren and the others around them how much confidence they had. Honor is ahead, merit is ahead. Soldiers, let's go. The Shenji Battalion soon boarded the ship, and Yan Ren was the last one to board the supply ship. The 3 supply ships raised their sails and headed overseas, joining the 3 destroyers and 6 frigates that had been waiting for a long time and sailed to the north under their escort. The 3 destroyers and 3 supply ships belonged to the exploration fleet, and the 6 frigates belonged to the defense fleet, so this was also the first joint operation of the 2 armies and multiple fleets in Xia State. This is exactly one of the important purposes of this plundering operation training. The commander of this joint fleet is a recently promoted Zhao Tao, and the army does not have a unified on-site commander. In the early stage, the army was composed of 2 direct armies of Yang Song, the Shenji Battalion and the Imperial Guards, which were directly under the command of Yang Song. But Yang Song would definitely not go directly to the battlefield, so the 2 absolute commanders decided on their own at the front line. After the 2 armies were gone, the rest of the army would be allowed to take turns. After 3 days of sailing, the fleet successfully arrived at the target overseas. Zhao Tao said to Yan Ren, Commander Yan, according to regulations, our navy will attack the port next to cover your landing. Zhao He was greeting Yan Ren. The 2 of them did not have a definite superior-subordinate relationship, and in terms of military rank, Zhao He was a major general and Yan Ren was a colonel. Yan Ren was 1 level lower than Zhao He. However, because the Shenji battalion was a direct army of Yang Song, Zhao, a major general of the navy, had no control over Yan Ren at all. Therefore, after Zhao greeted Yan Ren, he turned around and walked back to the command room at the stern of the ship. After a while, the fleet formed a battle line, approached the port, and launched an artillery attack on the buildings behind the port. There were 62 naval guns involved in one round of attack by 3 destroyers and 6 frigates. The residents in the port looked at this sudden huge fleet at first and gathered in the port with great curiosity, pointing and talking about the fleet on the sea. Unexpectedly, the fleet on the sea changed, and suddenly there was a burst of fire, followed by a deafening explosion. Along with the explosion, various objects flew up, letting the residents of the harbor know that they were attacked, and they immediately cried and fled. After the fleet fired 3 rounds of artillery at the port, it moved the attack front back to cover the docking of the supply ship. Because the supply ship had to dock, the warship avoided the dock when it started the bombardment. Otherwise the supply ship could not directly approach and could only be transported by landing boats. So the soldiers of the Shenji could get off the supply ship so directly and set foot on foreign land. The supply ship slowly approached the port, firing at the crowd as it approached. The 10 level 5 naval guns on the supply ship can not only be used for self-defense, but also for attack. As soon as Yan Ren got off the ship, he shouted loudly, line up, prepare to attack." In fact, there was no need for Yan Ren's order at all. The first thing the soldiers of the Shenji battalion did, after getting off the ship, was to line up in small teams and fire a volley of guns at the fleeing crowd outside the port. When the Shenji battalion finished lining up at the port, the people around them had long disappeared, leaving only the devastated and wounded lying on the ground, rolling and groaning. Yan Ren looked at the Shenji battalion, which had finished lining up, and was waiting for orders. Without any hesitation, he picked up the whistle and blew it hard and ordered loudly, "Attack." At this time, the shelling at sea had stopped unknowingly. Next, this small coastal town would be the stage for the Shenji battalion to perform a record that was destined to be left, the record of the Shenji battalion's first battle. This coastal town of Baxter Country had long been known as Zaya Country. A town of more than 10,000 people could not withstand the attack of the Shenji camp. Soon, the 3 musket battalions of the Shenji camp disappeared inside the town. The incessant sound of muskets in the town made people realize that this town was not as peaceful as it seemed. In the port, Yan Ren commanded the camp headquarters of the Shenji camp to deploy defenses and asked the artillery battalion behind to support the soldiers attacking in front. The sailors of the supply ship have been busy unloading the supplies in the supply ship. After unloading the supplies, the supply ship will return to the naval town of Zaya Country under the escort of 3 frigates to carry out the second batch of soldiers. It is expected that the next batch of reinforcement will arrive in 6 days, and the first batch of labor will be transported back by these supply ships. The second batch of support troops is a regular battalion of the Imperial Guards. Their mission is to defend this seaport town. They will use local materials to build some simple fortifications to prevent the counterattack of the Baxter Country army. The third batch was the heavy armored battalion of the Imperial Guards, and the fourth batch was the heavy cavalry battalion, until all 7,800 soldiers of the Imperial Guards were transported here. In less than 2 hours, the messenger came to report to Yan Ren. "Report to the commander, the town has been captured." "Very good. Gather everyone in the open space outside the town, and the classification must be completed before dark." Yan Ren already knew their mission. "Yes, Commander." The messenger saluted Yan Ren with a fist, then jumped on his horse and went to pass on the order. The classification in Yan Ren's order was to select the young and strong people in this town and prepare to transport them back to the country. As for the remaining old and weak natives, Yang Song had already made it clear all released. Chapter 293, Forced. The first battle of the Shenji camp was called a battle, but in fact, there was no fight with the enemy at all, and there was only the expulsion of local residents. For the residents living in the town, the arrival of the soldiers of the Zaya Kingdom was a disaster that fell from the sky. But for the Zaya Kingdom, these residents themselves are a kind of resource, and for the rapid development of the Zaya Kingdom, plundering resources is a normal thing. Since Yang Song learned that the Xia people have reproductive isolation from the people of this world, these natives are just a kind of creatures with wisdom in his eyes. There is no need for creatures that cannot be integrated into the Xia kingdom. This is a struggle for survival, which is inevitable. Maybe the Xia kingdom has enough living space now, but what about the future? Instead of merging together on the surface now, and the conflict that is destined in the future, it is better to make the conflict clear from the beginning, and avoid causing greater harm in the future. Although the current Xia kingdom seems powerful, the total population is very small. According to Chen Ping's estimate, the number of natives in this world is at least more than 50 million. With such a big gap, even if the Xia kingdom has a refugee camp as a cheating device for recruiting population, it cannot catch up in a short time. This is also one of the reasons why Yang Song formulated a 10-year plan. According to the plan, by the end of the 20th year of Cheyenne Qi, the total population of Xia state must reach 30 million. Only at this point, Xia state will have the confidence to be an enemy of the world. Therefore, in order to develop Xia state faster within a limited time, foreign wars are inevitable, whether for resources or to fight the enemy. This is also the reason why Yang Song ordered only young and strong natives and released the old and weak natives. Because these old and weak natives will inevitably have a hard time surviving after losing their young and strong labor, and will inevitably seek help from those in power. So no matter how the authorities arrange these old and weak, it will inevitably involve a lot of their energy. If they are not handled well, it is very likely that unrest will occur in Baxter. In fact, from the moment Xia state decided to attack Baxter, Baxter was destined to have no good results. Even Lurk found Yang Song after the meeting and made a vision of this plundering war. Your Majesty, if the monarch of Baxter can't bear the attack, he will definitely send people to ask for peace. Ask for peace? What's the use of asking for peace? Yang Song was dismissive of this. Lurk replied, as long as Baxter is willing to agree to our conditions, I think there is nothing wrong with a ceasefire. What conditions? But when? Do you mean labor service? Yang Song remembered the reason why he started this war, and said in disbelief, the monarch of Baxter is willing to use a large number of civilians in exchange for the withdrawal of our troops? No wonder Yang Song was so surprised. If someone told him that he could exchange peace for tens of millions of young and strong people of Xia, he would rather fight to the death. Your Majesty, these indigenous dignitaries are not monarchs like you who love the people like their own children. In order to ensure their own interests, such conditions are completely acceptable. Lurk was very convinced of Yang Song's resentment, but he still had to say what he should say. When Yang Song heard this, he suddenly realized that after all, they were people from two different worlds and civilizations from two different worlds, and it was normal for them to have differences. In that case, Yang Song thought for a while, and said to Lurk, then this plundering war will focus on forcing Baxter to take the initiative to seek peace. If it is unwilling, then the soldiers can only work harder. Your Majesty is wise. Lurk immediately bowed and said, in this way, we can train soldiers, reduce the loss of our army, and achieve our goals. This is a great plan. After all, war serves politics. If we can achieve our goals in a convenient and quick way, we don't have to waste people's money and money. If Yang Song didn't know that there are many things that cannot be explained directly with just one mouth, he can only continue to talk by showing actual strength. It's like Xia directly told Baxter that he would not attack Baxter if the other party provided 1 million young and strong laborers. The other party would never agree. Only when Xia really sent troops and showed its true strength, the other party would choose the relatively lighter option in the dilemma. At this moment, Yanren looked at the old and weak natives gathered in front of him and asked the translator to come forward to translate his speech for him. Tell your monarch that we, Xia, are here to seek help from Baxter's civilians. As long as there are 1 million young and strong civilians from your country to work in our country will withdraw its troops immediately. After saying this, Yanren ignored the riots of the natives and waved his hand, ordering his soldiers to release the people. This 1 million young and strong laborers, let alone 1 million, even 500,000, is definitely not available with Baxter's national strength, but is there a saying that is easy to negotiate? According to Chenping's intelligence, Baxter's military strength is nearly 200,000. According to this calculation, Baxter can only provide 300,000 laborers at most, so Xia is expected to get 200,000 young and strong from Baxter. And if Baxter really provides so many young and strong, Baxter will inevitably be seriously injured and will not be able to make further progress in the next 10 years. Returning to the town, looking at the dilapidated buildings and streets without any layout, Yan Ren had no interest in staying here, so he returned directly to the port and lived in the military tent. On the 6th day, after the supply ship arrived with reinforcement, no Baxter soldiers came to counterattack. But Yan Ren did not slack off at all. After all, he had penetrated deep into the enemy's hinterland, and it was very likely that a carelessness would lead to the annihilation of his entire army. General Zhao, welcome to Baxter, haha. Yan Ren came to the port to welcome the reinforcement. Unexpectedly, the first batch of reinforcement from the Imperial Guards, Zhao Wu, the general of the Imperial Guards, came. Zhao Wu glanced at the town behind the port, clasped his fists, and said in return, Commander Yan, you are too polite. This time, in addition to a battalion of reinforcement, I have also brought 5 transport ships, which are full of ammunition and supplies. With so many supplies, his Shenji battalion could not manage the transportation, so Yan Ren thought of something, and confirmed to Zhao Wu with a little uncertainty, oh, so many ammunition and supplies? Are the people from the Rear Protection Bureau here too? Haha, Commander Yan is really wise. Zhao Wu saw that Yan Ren actually guessed it at the first time and couldn't help but admire him a little. Zhao Wu nodded and confirmed, that's right. Director Yang of the Rear Security Bureau has sent 10 transport ships. In addition to 5 ships of ammunition supplies, there are also 1,000 militiamen and 100 horse-drawn carriages. This support comes just in time. Yan Ren sighed and then said, this commander will continue the attack. This town is left to you, General Zhao. Chapter 294 Announcement. Okay, I'm just following orders. Zhao Wu answered truthfully, the mission of the Shenji camp is to attack. Commander Yan, please go ahead. I'll follow you soon. Before the expedition, Yang Song, Liug and Li Jing set a battle plan. In the plan, the Shenji camp served as the vanguard, and the Imperial Guard served as the main force. They went straight to the capital of Baxter, to force Baxter to compromise. If Baxter stubbornly resisted, the Shenji camp and the Imperial Guards would retreat immediately. After all, a single army would go deep into the country, and the logistics were so limited that they could not stay for a long time. At this time, Xia State would let the domestic army take turns to attack from multiple ports and plunder the young and strong in the surrounding towns. Xia State's demand for labor to build railways is about 500,000 people, so the attack on Baxter State is a kind of killing chickens to scare monkeys to other coastal forces. Otherwise, who would obediently hand over the population of their own forces? Only when the many forces in the north know the strength of Xia State will they obediently surrender. Since the occupation of the Linhei Mountains, the Xia Kingdom has never shown its fist to the outside world. After so many years, it is time to show its strength to the outside world. At the beginning, the national strength of the Xia Kingdom was limited. After occupying the Linhei Basin, it was still worried about the attack of the coalition forces outside the pass. However, after so many years of development, the current Xia Kingdom is no longer the Xia Kingdom with only a few 100,000 people in the country. The Xia Kingdom established Gihua City. After years of trade, people outside knew that the Xia Kingdom was a wealthy country and a country that people envied and yearned for. However, because of the xenophobia of the Xia Kingdom, all outsiders could not get what they wanted. They could only live in Gihua City, a window city to the outside world, and be half a Xia citizen. This has made many people who cannot live in Gihua City very envious. They often argue for a residence quota, but often these people who argue do not get the qualification to live. Nowadays, after the Xia Kingdom showed its strength to the outside world, the situation of Gihua City is a bit embarrassing. They want to live here, but are afraid of being caught by the Xia people and used as slaves. In response to this situation, Xia country must have a countermeasure. A new official announcement appeared in the public notice board of Gihua City. Every time an official announcement appears, it is for a very important matter, and this time is no exception. Who knows Xayah characters? Read it to everyone. Yes, is there anyone who knows Xayah characters? The crowd of onlookers all looked around, hoping to find someone who can recognize Xayah characters. As for Xayah people, they would definitely not see them in occasions like this. I'll do it. I know a little. A voice suddenly sounded from behind the crowd, making everyone around look over, and the noisy scene suddenly quieted down. After Tom got useful information from Gihua City, he was stationed in Gihua City by the Fulimid country. Now that many years have passed, he can already use Chinese to communicate proficiently and recognize a lot of Chinese characters. In this situation, the eyes of envy, respect, or curiosity are all focused on him, which makes him enjoy it very much. This kind of scenery is something he has never had outside Gihua City. Ahem, let me take a look. Tom walked to the notice board from the aisle that they had separated themselves from, cleared his throat, and read the notice. The notice said that Xayah country needed people to go mining, so it decided to buy slaves. As long as they were young and strong, the price of each young and strong slave was 1 or 2 Xayah coins. And the Baxter country in the east started a war without authorization, and was unwilling to accept Xayah country's mediation. So Xayah country decided to launch a crusade against it, and turn all the young and strong people in its country into slaves as a punishment. Tom read the notice on the notice board aloud, and was secretly shocked. He didn't expect Xayah country to start a war for slaves. He thought about his employer, the Fremite country, who was trying to get support from Xayah country recently. This might be a good opportunity. There were many slaves in Fremite. If he reported this news and suggestions, as long as he succeeded, he could be promoted to a higher level, and maybe even get a noble title. Tom thought of this, and ignored the people who were making noises around him. He squeezed through the crowd with great effort. This was really to give convenience when he was needed, and who cares who you are when you are not needed. So it is the Xayah kingdom that needs slaves. I remember that you were a slave trader before, right? Haha, that was all in the past. Now I have settled in Gihua City, and have stopped doing it for a long time. What a pity, this is a lot of money. Just those untouchables can be exchanged for 1 or 2 Xayah coins each. Well, that's true, but I don't do this anymore. The slave trader also knew that slave traders were gossipy. Although he said that he didn't do it, he was actually very tempted. The slave trader secretly recalled the market in the past few years. In the past, an ordinary young and strong slave could only be sold for 700 or 800 copper coins, and the better ones were only 1000 copper coins. Now an ordinary young and strong slave can be sold for 2500 copper coins. This is a big business, which makes the slave trader want to go back to his old business. But he thought of the good life in Gihua City now, and he was reluctant to leave. One of the qualifications for settling in Gihua City is that you are not a merchant from outside. You can only find a job and live in this city unless you can get an official permit. Xiago did this for the stability of Gihua City. If the flow of people is too large and the population structure becomes complicated, it will be difficult to manage. However, this businessman still has connections from the past. He thought of a way to have the best of both worlds, which can not only obtain considerable benefits, but also not violate the rules of Gihua City. This former slave trader decided to contact people he knew before, and he would be a middleman to earn the difference. There are many such situations in Gihua City. Most of the residents outside the pass are natives of this world, and it is normal to have connections from the past. And for the forces in this world, slave trading is a very ordinary thing, and even ordinary people can get in touch with it at any time. When Tom sent the information that Xiago needed a large number of young and strong slaves back to Fulimid, the reply came faster than he expected. Please go back and tell the adults. I know. I will pass the news to the people of Xiago. Tom read the reply and replied to the messenger. After the messenger returned, Tom opened the letter again and laughed out loud in the empty room. It turned out that the letter also said that, as long as he did this well, he would be promoted at least 1 level after returning. Isn't this exactly what he wanted? Chapter 295, Recruitment. In the castle hall of Nanshan City in the kingdom of Philomet, Parker asked Bert, the civil officials, our kingdom needs a large number of slaves, but how many can our country give? Bert thought about it and replied, Your Majesty, there are at least hundreds of thousands of slaves in our country, but all of them are in the hands of the nobles. Bert knew the reason why Parker asked this question. He also knew that the current situation of the kingdom of Philomet was very bad. If Parker had not had a large army, those lords who surrendered would have united to resist. The reason for the current situation of the kingdom of Philomet is that the kingdom of Philomet has stopped its expansion, so that many lords who were originally unwilling to accept it know that the kingdom of Philomet can also be stopped. The kingdom of Zaya has long known that the feudal system of the kingdom of Philomet has such defects. When the kingdom of Philomet stopped expanding, Chang Sheng came to Nanshan City to tell Parker the solution. The solution is to stabilize the current situation, use time to settle, and let the current territory of the kingdom of Philomet become a foregone conclusion. In addition, with effective management and publicity, after a few decades or 1 or 2 generations, who will remember what the original lord was like? But now it seems that Parker did not listen to Chang Sheng's advice at all, and was still thinking about expanding with a strong army in order to shut up those dishonest dignitaries. Pollant, how many slave troops are there? Parker knew that it was unrealistic to ask these nobles to donate their property, so he paid attention to the army. My lord, there are 50,000 slave troops. Knight Commander Pollant was a little anxious about Parker's question. After answering Parker's words, he immediately said, But my lord, our country's army is not enough. If, Pollant, you don't have to say it. The slave army can be reassembled at any time, but now we need the support of Zaya country more. Parker interrupted what Pollant wanted to say. At this time, the financial officer Babu, who had been watching for a long time, confidently suggested, My lord, I have a way to keep our country's army from decreasing and have enough slaves to trade with Zaya country. What is the way? Tell me. Parker was looking forward to the next method the other party would say when he heard what the young financial officer said. Your Majesty, I believe that Your Majesty ordered the conscription of slaves under the nobles in the name of the monarch. If any noble is unwilling, his noble status should be revoked on the grounds of violating the monarch's order. This way, not only can you know that those nobles are truly loyal to you, but also those nobles who disobey will lose their noble status, and you can also conscript enough slaves. As soon as Babu finished speaking, Parker cheered loudly. This is a good idea, Babu. Let's do as you say. This monarch wants to see which nobles are truly loyal to this monarch. Pollant, you send out the army. If any noble disobeys, do you know what to do next? Parker knew that he could have his current status because of the army. Pollant had long been dissatisfied with the nobles in the country who were secretly disobeying the orders. Now that he had this opportunity, he immediately accepted the order and said, Yes, Lord, I obey your orders and will keep a close eye on it. Lord, your order. All nobles who own slaves must contribute half of their slaves to your lord to show their loyalty. If they violate the order, their noble status will be revoked. Parker's conscription order quickly spread throughout the country of Philomet. The former lords who were conquered and loyal all looked at the army outside the city in fear and handed over their slaves helplessly. Did they fail to fulfill their noble obligations, or did Parker see that they were living too comfortably and wanted to find something to do? Why did they start with slaves now? It has only been a few years since the army was at the gates of the city, and now the country of Philomet is playing this trick again, which makes these nobles have to make more guesses. At that time, Parker's army was strong and successively captured many surrounding territories. If Parker had not told them that, as long as they were loyal to Parker, the so-called monarch, they would be guaranteed their current status. These lords thought that after they pledged allegiance, they only needed to pay tribute on time, send a lot of soldiers to join the army of the kingdom of Philomet, and declare their allegiance to the outside world. They never thought that things would change after just a few years. When Parker learned about the attitudes of these nobles and the changes he could perceive, he felt that he had made the right decision this time. He hadn't seen those dignitaries who were a little restless before, but now they were respectful to him. He decided that after this matter was over, Parker would think of some ways to discipline these dignitaries from time to time. Bab, your method is very good. This monarch will reward you with 10 gold coins. Parker awarded Babu in front of many dignitaries. After Babu accepted the reward and thanked him, he nodded with satisfaction, turned to Bert and asked, how many slaves are there now? Replying to the monarch, there are more than 100,000 slaves now, but there are only 30,000 young and strong slaves. Bert was a civil official, and he was in charge of the conscripted slaves. Parker ordered Bert, gather 50,000 young and strong slaves. Yes, Lord. Although Bert was a little reluctant, he had to obey after seeing Parker's methods. The kingdom of Philimid recruited 100,000 slaves this time. Even if 50,000 young and strong slaves were handed over, the remaining 80,000 slaves would still have 60,000 surplus, after making up for the loss of 20,000. Bert's farms and ranches used a large number of slaves. Parker's order was equivalent to making him bleed, but when he thought of the extra old and weak slaves, his mood instantly improved. Parker continued to Babu, Babu, this time you will represent this monarch, to go to Zaya States to discuss the use of young and strong slaves in exchange for Zaya States support, but you must succeed. As he said, Parker had high expectations for Babu. It was because of Babu's long-term outstanding performance that Parker believed in Babu's wisdom. As ordered, Babu solemnly accepted the order, but what he thought in his heart was that he could finally show him how strong his enemy was again. Babu had a deep hatred for Zaya, since his father was assassinated by an assassin from Zaya. But after so many years, he knew that he could not defeat a country with his own strength. Slowly, as time passed, his thoughts changed. He decided to make Philimid stronger and eventually surpass Zaya. He wanted Zaya to know what regret was. Soon, Babu took 50,000 young slaves and rushed to Gihua city in Zaya. He wanted to enter Shanhaiguan, but Zaya's attitude towards the outside world made him go to Gihua city. Zaya's foreign trade window. Chapter 296 Visitors from outside the pass. Captain, the scouts reported that the slaves from the country of Philimid are about to be transported. The deputy reported to Liu Yan the latest intelligence about the slave team from the country of Philimid coming to trade. Arrived? Liu Yan repeated and ordered, tell the brothers to be alert. Then notify the stewards in the city and let them prepare. Yes, Captain, I'll go right away. The adjutant clasped his fists to Liu Yan and quickly turned around to pass the order. Liu Yan stood on the top of the city and looked at the dust rising in the distance and couldn't help but fall into memories. Liu Yan is now a battalion commander under the Weijin Bureau. Originally, the city guard battalion he was in charge of was stationed in the navy town, but since the Zaya kingdom decided to launch a plundering war, he and his city guard battalion were transferred to Gihua city as a defensive force. After all, the rest of the army has a plan to take turns to play. If Shanhaiguan was not the gateway to the Zaya kingdom, it must have a certain combat power. It is estimated that the entire Shanhaiguan would be handed over to their city guards to defend. This certain combat power is the conscript brigade of Shianqian Pass that was dispatched to Shanhaiguan to replace the elite army that left. In addition, the city guards had limited manpower and had to guard major towns in the country, so they only sent a battalion to garrison Gihua city during this period. After all, they were doing their job, defending the city. When the Zaya kingdom reorganized the entire army, it established the military department and set up the guard bureau under the military department. The director of the guard bureau was Zhang Wenyi, the former brigade commander of the Zaya kingdom guard brigade. When Liu Yan was reorganizing at the time, he chose to follow Zhang Wenyi to the second line and changed from the commander of the Malay battalion of the guard brigade to the commander of a city guard battalion of the city guard army. Although he had long known that retreating to the second line, even if it was still the same level of position and rank, compared with being in the elite army, both the status and the monarch's heart in the future were all 2 levels. But Liu Yan still decided to leave the first line army and retreat to the second line with Zhang Wenyi. His original intention was not for anything else, but because he valued friendship. When he was fighting against the southern barbarians, Liu Yan was just a small commander, and his mind was full of the idea of making achievements, and this idea has not faded until now. He is different from Yan Ren and Qi Jun of the same period. Although he values achievements, he values feelings more, even though he is just a rough man. I hope these northern barbarians can behave themselves. If not, this battalion commander doesn't mind adding some achievements. Liu Yan looked at the team getting closer and closer, and returned to the present from his memories. There was severity and a little expectation in his eyes. 50,000 young and strong slaves tied into a string, and 5,000 soldiers responsible for escorting. Such a large team appeared outside Gihua City, making the residents who didn't know think that it was the blind thief who came to rob again. Babu set out from Nanshan City and drove 50,000 young and strong slaves to the Gihua City of Xia State, which he still didn't know what it meant. I'm the envoy of Fulamat. I heard that Xia is buying young and strong slaves. I have 50,000 young and strong slaves here, and I'm here to do business with Xia. Babu was outside the city, riding on a wildebeest, looking up and shouting at the top of the city. Such a big thing must have been reported to Xia in advance, but now Babu still has to make a statement, otherwise it would be unprofitable to be attacked by Xia's soldiers who are unaware of it as thieves. Liu Yan accompanied Zhao Yi, the administrative director of Gihua City, and walked out of the city gate together under the escort of a small team of city guards. Your Excellency, the envoy has come from afar, and I hope you will forgive me for not welcoming you from afar. Zhao Yi bowed to Babu from a distance, and shouted to Babu in the local language. Zhao Yi's qualifications are very impressive. When Xia was still a lord, he was already a liaison officer stationed in the southern tribes. He was responsible for collecting intelligence from these tribes in the tribes. During this period, he learned some native languages, and could communicate with the southern natives in a simple way. Then when the southern natives wanted to invade the Xia kingdom, he was the first to discover the clues, and was valued by Chenping for his contribution. At that time, Chenping joined the Xia kingdom, which gave Yang Song the foundation to establish an intelligence network. So under Yang Song's promise to Chenping, that people should be given to people, and things should be given to things, he was transferred to the intelligence department by Chenping's transfer order as a team leader of the intelligence field department. Next, Zhao Yi received professional training from Chenping, and foreign language training from Chang Zhensheng. When he participated in the counterattack against the Nunman, he followed Zhang Wei throughout the whole process, and conducted multiple rounds of persuasion, and shouting to the natives. After the expulsion war against the Nunman, he served as Yang Zong's translator on Filang Island, making Yang Zong confusedly become an Anman king. Later, Zhao Yi participated in the war to rescue the caravan, the battle to defend the Xianqian Pass, and the counterattack to occupy the Linhai Basin. His achievements accumulated more and more, and his status became higher and higher. Chenping also recalled Zhao Yi for guidance many times, because of his achievements. Finally, when Xia State lacked talents, he recommended him to participate in the rapid training course of administrative management, and became the mayor of a newly built town. Until a few years ago, when Xia State decided to establish a foreign trade window, that is, when it established Gihua City, it needed a chief officer who understood administration, military affairs, confidentiality and had vision. Zhao Yi's experience was a perfect match, and Yang Song took a fancy to him at first sight, so he was reused, and became the mayor of Gihua City. Although Gihua City is a city that has become prosperous due to trade, it is only a town-level administrative unit in the administrative divisions within Xia State, so he is just a mayor. However, his identity as a mayor is completely different from that of mayors of other towns, and his status is much higher, and sometimes even more important than a county magistrate. Because Gihua City is directly under the central government, it also has an important position in the heart of Yang Song, the monarch. So even ordinary county magistrates must first salute to show respect when they see Zhao Yi. I'm Zhao Yi, the chief officer of this city. Your Excellency the envoy, please enter the city. Zhao Yi walked to about 5 or 6 meters in front of Babu and stopped. He half turned his body and used his left hand to signal Babu to enter the city. Babu first took 2 steps forward and then seemed to remember that he still had 50,000 slaves behind him. So he pointed to the team behind him and asked Zhao Yi, okay, but what about these slaves behind me? Zhao Yi laughed at Babu and said, of course, they will be left outside the city. After we finish the deal, our Xia country will only deal with these people. Seeing that Babu seemed to have something else to say, Zhao Yi raised his right hand and said first, "Don't worry, Your Excellency the envoy, the deal can be settled today. It won't take much time." Babu saw that the other party had said so much, and it was not easy to say anything else. If he said a few more words, it would be as if he didn't dare to enter the city. Wouldn't this be a loss of face for the Fulamite country? He didn't want to bow his head in front of his enemy, so Babu walked straight into Gihua city with 2 guards without saying a word. Chapter 297 Visitor's Purpose. Zhao Yi and Liu Yan accompanied Babu into Gihua city. Liu Yan did not understand the native language, and did not say much. After Zhao Yi received the envoy from the Fulamite country, he returned to the city wall to continue patrolling. After entering the city, Zhao Yi introduced the prosperity of Gihua city to Babu. "Your Excellency, please look, this is the money house of our country. You can exchange gold coins for our country's paper money. By the way, only our country's paper money can be used in this city. The rest of the currency is not recognized by our country's stores. This is a restaurant, a store that provides guests with food and fine wine. I will welcome you here tonight. This is a tavern, which sells all kinds of fine wines from our country. This is a cloth shop, which sells exquisite cloth from our country. This is..." Zhao Yi introduced it all the way. Sometimes Babu would go into the store to take a look, if he was interested. When they arrived at the government office, which was only 1 kilometer away from the city gate, several hours had passed. After everyone sat down in the hall of the government, the hired attendant served tea. Zhao Yi held up the teacup and gestured to Babu to have some tea. He took a sip first. After swallowing the tea in his mouth, Zhao Yi laughed and said, "Your Excellency the envoy, this is a drink from our country, called tea, which is a good thing, that cannot be bought in the market." Babu looked at the leaves in the exquisite ceramic teacup in front of him, as well as the light green water. Looking at Zhao Yi's enjoyment, he hesitated for a moment, and then took a sip gently like a scholar. The moment Babu drank this so-called tea drink, he regretted it. Although the bitter taste was not as bitter as the anti-epidemic Chinese medicine he had drunk before, it was not something he could tolerate. Babu swallowed the bitterness in his mouth, and breathed a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but think in his heart, why do these Xia people like bitter things? The medicine for preventing and treating plague in the past, and the drink now, are all bitter. If it weren't for the normal salty taste of refined salt sold in Xia country, and the strong liquor that tasted like clear water, Babu almost thought that these Xia people had no other taste except bitterness. But after Babu swallowed the tea in his mouth, the sweet aftertaste in his mouth made him look at the teacup on the tea table beside him. It was the first time he saw such a charming thing, which made him want to take another sip. "Haha. Are you satisfied, envoy?" The careful Zhao Yi watched Babu's performance throughout the whole process and laughed twice. Babu just hummed when he saw Zhao Yi's laughter and stopped touching the teacup. Instead, he started talking about business. "Sir, this time I have brought 50,000 young and strong slaves, and I'm ready to sell them all to your Xia kingdom." "Oh. How do you plan to sell them, Your Excellency the envoy?" Zhao Yi knew that the other party brought so many slaves that Xia kingdom urgently needed not just for the sake of selling them for money. When Babu heard Zhao Yi's question, he immediately replied, "Our country needs the support of Xia country, including food, weapons, and equipment." "Support? Weapons? Food? Your Excellency, our country adheres to the path of peaceful development. Logically, we cannot sell weapons and equipment to other countries." After Zhao Yi said this, he saw Babu's anxious expression, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and then said, "But the kingdom of Fulamet is a friendly neighbor of our country, so the necessary support is still necessary." "Thank you, Your Excellency." Babu wanted to interrupt when he heard the nonsense of the man in front of him, but the other party suddenly changed the subject. He thanked him directly and asked, "I wonder what kind of support Xia country will provide?" "Don't worry, Your Excellency. Let's discuss the price of these young and strong laborers first." Zhao Yi picked up the teacup and took another sip. His unhurried look made Babu confused about his thoughts. Babu heard that Zhao Yi wanted to discuss the price and asked in confusion, "Price? Isn't it 1 gold coin for 4 young slaves? To be precise, it's 1 teal of Xia coin per person." Because different types of gold coins have different weights and fineness, Zhao Yi carefully corrected the other party's words. Then, regardless of the other party's doubts, Zhao Yi continued to reply, "This price is for those laborers who only sell for money, but your country wants support from its own country, so the price is of course different." After listening to Zhao Yi's explanation, Babu cursed scoundrel inwardly. But who told him to ask for help? He could only helplessly say, "Then how much is the price of support?" Babu came from a family of financial officials, and he had been exposed to those means of commercial negotiation since he was a child. He knew that once he said this, he would give up the initiative. When he came, Babu wanted to threaten the young slaves that Zaya country urgently needed in order to raise the price. Who knew that after a few words, the initiative was taken by the Zaya people in front of him. In fact, what Babu didn't know was that when 50,000 slaves set out for Zaya, the initiative was no longer in their hands. If the negotiation failed, he couldn't travel a long distance to return again. Not to mention that he hadn't thought of this result at the beginning. Even if he wanted to take these slaves back, he didn't bring enough food. How about this? Zhao Yi didn't answer Babu's question directly, but proposed an exchange method. 50,000 laborers stay, and our country can provide your country with 3,000 sets of exquisite equipment and 3,000 people for half a year. Your Excellency the envoy, what do you think? Babu didn't answer Zhao Yi immediately, but secretly calculated it. The food for 3,000 people for half a year, calculated it to kilograms of food per person per day. Half a year is 190 days, a total of 1.14 million kilograms of food, and the market price of each kilogram of food is 10 copper coins. In the war era, the price has risen, so a total of 11.4 million copper coins, or 1,140 gold coins. If we calculate, based on 1 teal of Zaya coins for 1 slave, and 1 gold coin for 2 teals of Zaya coins, 50,000 young slaves can be exchanged for a total of 50,000 teals of Zaya coins, or 25,000 gold coins. Babu was shocked when he calculated that, even if the price of the support was doubled, the price of food was only 2,280 gold coins, which was more than 10 times the price of 25,000. Not to mention that, even if the price increased, it would not have doubled, right? Could it be that the so-called exquisite equipment supported by Zaya state cost more than 7 gold coins per set? What kind of weapons and equipment are so expensive? 10 sets of ordinary weapons and equipment can be purchased. So after Babu finished the calculation, he shook his head and said, "Sir, I will not accept this price. The quantity is too small. I think Zaya State should provide weapons and equipment for 10,000 people and food for 10,000 people for half a year." Zhao Yi did not say much about Babu's bargaining, but just smiled slightly. After all, if you ask for a high price, you should pay it back. Your Excellency the envoy may not know what kind of weapons and equipment our country provides. Zhao Yi did not bargain, but talked about the issue of weapons and equipment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Deal. Let's go. I will take the envoy to see the weapons and equipment provided by our country for your country. Zhao Yi stood up and walked out the door with Babu without saying anything. Logically, such an event should be negotiated by the diplomatic department of the Li Bureau under the administrative office, but because of the special status of Gihua City and the distance of more than 700 kilometers from Xianqi City, and because Gihua City is also a window for foreign trade, there are many things that need to be dealt with in time. So Yang Song also gave the chief officer of Gihua City some diplomatic power. Zhao Yi said that he was a mayor, but it would be better to say that he was a governor. If Xianqi City needs to make decisions on everything, the back and forth messages and the back and forth journeys will make the diplomats of Zaya country collapse. Soon the two found Liu Yan at the gate of the city. After Zhao Yi and Liu Yan said that they needed to borrow the military camp's parade ground, they came to the military camp accompanied by Liu Yan and saw 2 sets of equipment that had been neatly placed in the middle of the parade ground. This is Babu looked at the unique military camp and the weapons and equipment displayed in the open space. He was very surprised and said to Zhao Yi in disbelief, "Aren't these the weapons and equipment of your Zaya country? Are you selling them now?" No wonder Babu was so surprised. You know, the Fulimid country has always coveted the weapons and equipment of the Zaya country's army, but no matter what they said, Zaya country just refused to sell them. Unexpectedly, Zaya country is willing to sell them now. How could he not be shocked? Had a look at what you said. Aren't these weapons and equipment placed in front of you? Zhao Yi was very satisfied when he saw Babu's expression. Babu recovered and looked at the weapons and equipment on the bracket with his eyes shining. After a careful look for a while, he found the trick. "Sir, why are all these equipment sold? And there are only these two types. What about other types of weapons and equipment?" Facing Babu's question, Zhao Yi replied calmly, "These are the weapons and equipment replaced by our country's soldiers. Of course, they are old. As for the type, our country currently only sells these two types. These two sets of weapons and equipment are the sword and shield soldier set, and the spear soldier set. They are all melee equipment. There are no heavy equipment, no long range equipment, and even relatively cheap bows and arrows. As for why Xiaguo wants to sell these weapons and equipment now, of course Yang Song wants to change the equipment for the entire army. The intelligence from the plundering battlefield showed that the Shenji battalion performed very well on the battlefield, which made the guards following behind jealous. Zhao Wu immediately sent a message to Yang Song, saying that he wanted to equip the guards with muskets. Okay. Babu looked at the equipment and secretly decided to exchange for these weapons and equipment, but he still had to talk about the price. But the price is still too high, and they are old equipment. This price is not high. These weapons and equipment are all made of fine steel. Have you ever seen such cheap fine steel weapons? Zhao Yi didn't buy it. Anyway, he had the initiative. Then the price of food is too high, and the quantity is so small. Babu bargained again from the aspect of food. Finally, after half a day of bargaining, the deal was finally reached with 5 gold coins for a set of equipment, and 5,000 people were given 100 days of food. If you buy these food with money, it will cost 1,000 gold coins. However, for the Zaya country, it is very cost effective to exchange some obsolete equipment for a large number of indigenous labor. The wealth that these indigenous labor can create for the Zaya country is not comparable to 1 or 2,000 gold coins. Moreover, the weapons and equipment to be traded are selective, such as medium-sized armor and melee weapons that are close to being scrapped, and there is not even a bow and arrow, let alone strong crossbows and crossbows. These equipment will never be sold. During the transaction, Babu saw that Zaya was willing to sell these weapons and equipment, so he tentatively asked Zhao Yi, "I wonder if Zaya will sell the weapons that can spit fire and explode. If they do, no matter how many slaves they have, they can provide them. At that time, you will definitely benefit." Can spit fire? Can spit fire? You are talking about artillery, right, envoy? Artillery? Yes, that's artillery. Because of Zaya's secrecy and relative isolation, it was not until this moment that people in this world learned the name of artillery from Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi looked at Babu's appearance of buying artillery at all costs, and even bribed him. Zhao Yi was very disdainful and even laughed at this. But after all, the other party was a customer, so Zhao Yi still replied, "Don't even think about it, Mr. Cannon Envoy. Even if the entire Fulimid country is sold to our country will not sell cannons." Babu was even a little angry when he saw Zhao Yi's resolute attitude. He thought about it from his own perspective. If Fulimid had cannons, it would definitely not sell them, so he would not bother about the cannons anymore. After the negotiation, the contract was signed, the goods were handed over, and all the procedures were completed at midnight that day. The deal was considered to be completed. After the transaction, Zhao Yi hosted Babu at a banquet with the restaurant. The next day, Babu was afraid that the night would be long, and he would have more dreams. He immediately and decisively took 5,000 soldiers, 5,000 sets of equipment and some food on the way back. The remaining food had to be transported slowly in the future, because of limited transportation capacity. Anyway, the transaction with Zaya country was not the first or second time, so there was still some trust. The first thing Zhao Yi did after completing the transaction was to report to Xianqi City and release a pigeon marked with the Xianqi City logo. The homing pigeons of Xia State are roughly divided into two types. One is the medium and short-range fast homing pigeons, which can fly up to 500 kilometers and more than 150 kilometers per hour. The other is the long-distance homing pigeons that Zhao Yi released, which can fly thousands of kilometers, but the speed per hour is much worse, about 120 kilometers per hour, plus foraging in the middle, it takes longer. However, Xia State has perfect measures for homing pigeons. It strictly prohibits the people from hunting and killing homing pigeons, and those who violate the law will be severely punished. In addition, a fixed feeding point is set up at a certain distance, so that the homing pigeons can easily find food, and will not delay the homing pigeons for finding food. In order to protect homing pigeons, one of the duties of the city guards is to hunt wild birds of prey along the road. In order to ensure the rapid flow of information, Xia State has made great efforts. After Yang Song got the news of the 50,000 indigenous laborers, he calculated the existing indigenous laborers in Xia State. In addition to the 50,000 people just obtained from the trade, there were more than 10,000 young and strong laborers plundered by the army, plus the young and strong laborers obtained from the scattered trades in Gihua City, a total of more than 60,000. Yang Song immediately summoned Liug, Zhen Yu and others to meet him, and the first thing he said to Liug and others who hurried over was, "You can start building the railway." Before the end of chapter 299. Liu, the staff officer of the cavalry brigade, was riding on a fast-running horse and suggested to the young cavalry brigade commander Hu Okubang beside him, "General, our army has advanced too far. Should we stop and wait for the army behind us?" Staff officer Liu, "Didn't the general say that? We must attack with all our strength and strive to capture the enemy's capital as soon as possible." Hu Okubang ignored the staff officer's advice and ordered regardless, "Pass the order. The entire army must keep moving forward at a fast speed. General, if we advance so recklessly and are surrounded by the enemy, it will be troublesome." Liu was still a little worried. Although he knew Hu Okubang's ability to lead the army, he decided to persuade him again. "Besides, our army only carries 3 days of dry food for the march. How should this problem be solved?" When Hu Okubang heard Liu's question, he said confidently, "Don't worry, 3 days is enough. Didn't the scout report that there is a small town ahead? Let's go there to replenish some rations." When Liu saw Hu Okubang's look, he knew that the other party had been adequately prepared, and with his understanding of Hu Okubang, he knew that the other party was not a person who was greedy for merit and reckless. Report to the general, the enemy town is 10 miles ahead. Not long after, a scout came to see him. Hu Okubang received the report, reined in his horse and ordered, "Order, the whole army stops advancing, and must not dismount. Rest on the spot for half an hour, replenish dry food and water, and prepare for battle." "Yes, General." Report to the monarch, the town of Stark in the east has been breached by the enemy, and the Knight Commander requests reinforcement. In the castle of Baxter City, the capital of Baxter, Aubrey Baxter heard another bad news, and was very angry and terrified. Aubrey asked loudly to his subordinates, "Who can stop the Xia army?" Hearing the monarch's question, many dignitaries in the hall just lowered their heads, said nothing, and did not move, as if they were following the monarch. "Then can you gather the 1 million young and strong slaves proposed by Xia?" Aubrey asked again, but the people below were still the same, motionless. Aubrey couldn't stand it anymore, and yelled, "This is not okay, that is not okay. You want to wait for this monarch to be defeated by Xia country, right?" But no matter how angry Aubrey was, the dignitaries in the hall seemed to have turned into statues. Looking at the many dignitaries in the hall, Aubrey thought about these people's flattery in the past, and then saw the scene in front of him. His anger rose. Waste, all waste. He really wanted to order all these people in front of him to be executed, but his only reason told him that it was impossible to do so. After an unknown amount of time, Aubrey was tired of scolding and angry, and he still had to solve the problem in front of him. The Xia army is less than 100 kilometers away from this city. If you can't think of a solution, go home and wait to die with this monarch. Aubrey stood up and said this and left the castle hall, leaving many dignitaries still standing in the hall. Aubrey returned to the second floor of the castle and told his trusted guards, "Get ready and wait for the order of this monarch at any time." "Yes, my lord." The guard saluted respectfully to Aubrey and turned to leave. It was already the 4th month since Xia launched the plundering war. Except for the city guards, the conscript brigade and the Genii, the rest of Xia's army was in Baxter. A cavalry brigade, a regular brigade, a guards, and a Shenji battalion, a total of 24,900 people. All the warships of Xia were used, and it took 3 months to transport them. On average, one batch was sent every 6 days, and each batch had a battalion of troops plus the supplies and ammunition they needed for half a month. If those transport ships that had been assigned to civilian use had not been mobilized, 3 supply ships alone would not have been able to complete such a large transportation volume. If we add the 30,000 militiamen and 300 transport carriages mobilized later to be responsible for logistics support, such a large transportation intensity will make all the warships busy. Moreover, such a large operation is the first time for the Xia Kingdom, which is a great test for the management personnel above. Fortunately, Yang Song's ministers have been tested for a long time and have outstanding abilities. Although they find some minor problems from time to time, they still stand the test. The Shenji camp, which arrived first, joined the Imperial Guards to launch a cleanup operation against the towns and villages around the harbor when the reinforcement came in a steady stream. While driving away and capturing the indigenous residents, the warning circle was also expanded outward to expand the scope of activities of the Xia Kingdom army. Otherwise, when the enemy came to the door, the army could only huddle together or stand on the ship and could not participate in the battle. It was during the cleanup operation that Zhao Wu discovered that the weapons of the Shenji camp were so powerful and the combat power was so strong that he couldn't help but send a letter to Yang Song for a change of clothes. Zhao Wu saw with his own eyes what kind of combat power the muskets equipped by the Shenji camp had. At that time, a small enemy town gathered more than 1,000 soldiers. After the city gate was destroyed by the artillery of the Shenjiang, they bravely went out of the city to defend their homes and fought with the Shenjiang, which had a roughly equal number of soldiers. Then these charging enemies all fell halfway under the continuous volleys of the Shenjiang, and they didn't even have the chance to touch the corners of the clothes of the Shenjiang soldiers. Although the long-range attack troops of the Imperial Guards can also achieve such a record, compared with the Shenjiang, they can't compare in terms of momentum or convenience. Especially after the Shenjiang finished the battle, it was completely like nothing happened. The relaxed and comfortable look seemed to have just warmed up the body, unlike the archers, who consumed a lot of physical strength after a few rounds of shooting. Of course, the Imperial Guards came to train soldiers, not to be bodyguards for the Shenjiang. When they approached the enemy, they also fought. Especially when the enemy had too many people, the Shenjiang and the Imperial Guards fought together. During the joint battle, Zhao Wu had a deeper understanding of this weapon called a musket, which made him want to have this weapon even more. When Aubrey heard that there were more than 20,000 Xia troops in the rear, he didn't think it was a big deal at first. Isn't it just 20,000 people? He has nearly 300,000 troops. But when the news came that the 50,000 troops he sent were annihilated, Aubrey was a little panicked. He didn't have a few 50,000 to spend. When Aubrey figured out why Xia came to invade, he was dumbfounded. 1 million young and strong slaves. Isn't this a lion's mouth? If he had so many young and strong slaves, would he still have to worry about the few-limit country in the west? It is estimated that the entire southern continent has been captured by him. But the army of Xia has been attacking, and he still has to fight back, so Aubrey sent the Knight Commander to lead an army of 120,000 to fight without affecting the border defense. Chapter 300, Muoyuan's Formation. Ian Reed is a Knight Commander of Baxter. He has been Aubrey's guard since he was a child and grew up together. When Aubrey took over the East Territory, Ian also took over the position of Knight Commander smoothly. Therefore, Aubrey has full trust in Ian. When launching the annexation war, Aubrey discussed and decided with Ian. Ian played a big role in the establishment of Baxter. It can be said that, if it were not for Ian's full support, Aubrey would not have become the leader of a country so smoothly. There is a reward for every effort. With the establishment of Baxter, Ian's status and power have also risen greatly. This time, as before, Ian, under Aubrey's order, led 120,000 troops to attack the invading Zaire army without saying a word. Report to the Knight Commander, the Zaire army has discovered our army and began to gather in Mu'in 3 days ago. Please give instructions, Knight Commander. A young knight who was responsible for scouting the enemy came to report the intelligence he had obtained to Ian. Is the Zaire army going to fight a decisive battle with our army? Ian looked at the obvious attitude of the Zaire army and secretly compared the strength of the enemy and ours, 120,000 to 25,000. He had gathered all the troops that Baxter could show off. Even if the Zaire army was very powerful, there was no reason for him to stop with such a big difference in military strength. Order the whole army to advance, target the enemy in Mu'in. Since Zaire wanted a decisive battle, how could Ian be afraid? After giving the order, Ian saw the young knight salute him and was about to pass the order. He told him, remember, let the slave army fight in the front. Yes, Lord Knight, I got it. The young knight was not surprised by Ian's instructions. Anyway, the slave army rushed to the front in every battle. Among the 120,000 troops this time, there were 50,000 slave soldiers. Mu'in is a plain with plenty of green grass. It is the grazing land of Baxter, so it is called Mu'in. Opposite the army of Baxter, at the edge of Mu'in, more than 20,000 troops of Zaire came from the north and south. Zaire also knew about the 120,000 troops of Baxter. The ones coming from the north were the Shenji camp and the Imperial Guards. The ones coming from the south were the Cavalry Brigade, and the ones waiting in the original place were the Infantry Brigade led by Deking. Half a month ago, Deking's army cooperated with the Cavalry Brigade led by Hu Okubeng to annihilate the 50,000 troops of Baxter. Before Hu Okubeng and Deking were separated for a few days, they learned that the other side had 120,000 troops coming. After Li Jing's unified command, they gathered again. These more than 20,000 troops must have a unified commander to fight in the enemy country, and the only person who can command such a large scale is Li Jing, the deputy director of the military department, except for Yang Song, the monarch. According to the military system of Zaire, an army must have a staff officer, and the only qualified staff officers are Liu and Liu Bowen, who are the monarch's military advisors. The most important thing for a country is sacrifice and military affairs. In such a large-scale military operation, there are also troops directly under Yang Song and the army. Yang Song would not feel at ease if there is no military supervisor. Therefore, it is most appropriate for Liu, the monarch's military advisor, to serve as the chief of staff and military supervisor. The army of the Zaire kingdom gathered very quickly. In less than 3 days, 3 brigade-level armies and 1 battalion-level army completed the reunion. There are many reasons why Li Jing launched a decisive battle. He also discussed this decision in detail with Liu, whether from a strategic point of view, plundering young and strong labor, or a tactical point of view, defeating the enemy in front of him. A decisive battle is the most suitable and efficient method. Tomorrow is the day of the decisive battle. All generals are wise men, so I will not give more instructions. On the eve of the decisive battle agreed with the Baxter Kingdom, Li Jing gathered the generals of various armies in the marching tent. Li Jing first looked at Deking and Zhao Wu, the old men of the army, and then looked at Hu Okubeng, the later, and Yan Ren, who was entrusted with an important task by Yang Song. Seeing the confident expressions of these generals, they were also very relieved. They were all veterans who knew what to do and what not to do, and they didn't need Li Jing to do anything unnecessary. So Li Jing directly ordered, all generals, listen to my orders. Yes. Everyone stood up and clasped their fists to obey. Order the Imperial Guards to stay in the middle and hold on. Order the Infantry Brigade to deploy on the left wing of the mountain to protect the Central Army. Order the Cavalry Brigade to the right wing of the plain to flank the entire army. Order the Shenji Battalion to guard the headquarters from behind. That's all. Li Jing finally finished his orders. Yes. The generals and commanders in the big tent said yes to Li Jing in unison. Li Jing had arrangements for each army. The Imperial Guards were heavy brigades with extremely strong defense, while the Infantry Brigade had a balanced combat power and was arranged by legion at the foot of the mountain on the left wing. The Cavalry Brigade is a mobile force, a completely offensive army, not suitable for defense, so legion let it conduct mobile operations on the wide plains and provide infantry support on the periphery, while also restraining a large number of enemy troops. The Shenji camp, which only has 1,500 people, has little room to play in such a large-scale battle, so Legion put the Shenji camp behind as his guard to protect the general's tent. As for the specific wartime command, it will be the responsibility of each general, and Legion will only make overall adjustments in the middle. Legion and LIUG's choice of battlefield is not so casual. As for the geographical advantages, all the generals of the Xia Kingdom know to take advantage of it. The battlefield of the decisive battle is on the eastern edge of Muyan, at the junction of hills and plains. There is a fairly steep hill in the south, a large piece of flat land in the western north, and rolling hills in the east. Legion's command post general tent is on a high ground, which can observe the entire battlefield from a high position, making it convenient for command. After seeing Legion give the order, LIUG also spoke, "Everyone, this battle is related to the rise and fall of our country. The king has previously issued a decree that those who have made outstanding military achievements will be rewarded generously. I hope you will fight bravely and remember the belief of being loyal to the king and serving the country." LIUG's words were not just talk. If the Xia Kingdom was defeated in this battle and the entire army was annihilated, then 60% of the total force of the Xia Kingdom, all the elite troops, would be gone. Although it would not lead to the destruction of the country, in the next 10 years, the Xia Kingdom could only defend Shanhaiguan and develop steadily and honestly. It would no longer be like now, where the influence could even reach the northern region 4 or 5,000 kilometers away. Without the supply of external resources, it would be completely impossible for the Xia Kingdom to develop as fast as it is now. War is not a joke. If you want to gain benefits through it, you must bear its corresponding consequences. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.